pain.
I got too much stuff to try and read.
Fair. Also, we didn't.
Welcome, guys. We are back with another Shonen Ronin. This is episode 55. We are going to be doing some double chapters because we didn't go live last Monday. I mean, chapters coming out on the Monday. Everybody's busy. Everybody's working. It's kind of hard to schedule that in, but we are live now. We are going to be live next week, maybe. But for now, we are going to be doing Weekly Shonen Jump, I think, issue 42 and 43. So right, let's go into our faces. How's it going, everybody? We are back with another episode of Shonen Ronin, and we are going to be covering One Piece 1061, My Hero Academia 366 and 367, JJK 198, and Undead Unluck 197 and 198. But first, how we all doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Staying well, enjoying my new job.
Yes.
You know, and enjoying most of what I've read this week and last week.
Love to see it. Yeah, it was actually really good chapters back to back for the weeks and that sort of stuff. And I'm kind of glad nobody's in break except for One Piece. Except for One Piece. But I'm hearing good things about the chapter that came in with this egg arc for something.
Oh, Egghead. Yeah. I feel like Kenny and I are going to have a lot to bounce off each other for that part.
Can't wait to catch up.
I can't wait to send our comment section in a tussy.
But yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna start with My Hero Academia, 366 and 367. So, anybody can start.
So, as usual, for My Hero, Aniki, take it away.
Wow, I was like, all right, Kenny coming in at first. Let's do this. No,
you think you thought.
Go ahead. I know. It's time for the evening church service. Go ahead,
man. All right. So look, back-to-back chapters, both being functional like setup chapters. I've been looking at these last couple, like this last 6 to 7, like since 360, as potentially like structured. Because since Hori got an anime, he started trying to write more with the anime in mind, with how he was structuring and setting the pace of certain chapters. Last week's chapter definitely felt like the end of an episode, and this one felt like the start of one. And I will say that I know some people weren't exactly happy with the big joke in last week's chapter in 366. I'm just gonna say that one of my favorite things about Horikoshi, but also one of his arguable weaknesses as a writer, is that he keeps people in character to a fault. So when Mirio decided to cheek up, it was to play into the fact that he's always tried to rely on gags. I know some people are like, wait, why didn't he just roast Shigaraki? He could have just insulted him like he did when he said he was friendless. And I'm like, the problem with that is that people don't realize that Mirio didn't say he didn't have friends to insult him. He was saying he didn't have friends in an attempt to empathize with him and understand him better. Mm-hmm. And so when this happens, he's just cracking a joke, just like he did at Sports Festival. He was trying to make that a right. Like when he was trying to make a good arrival, he did the peach is right and like mooned them through a bush. And now he did this here because humor is the thing that I appreciated most about him. He was kind of like, I got to do something to stall Shigaraki. I don't know what. I can't hurt him. Crack a joke. And that's what we got.
I mean,
So
Muriel is that kind of person anyway in general, because he always makes that weird crack jokes, especially when he made his first appearance with Deku. And it's like he always had his face out and just like literally just talk out in the middle of air and makes his jokes, almost like dad jokes. But and like, I mean, it worked. Sometimes dad jokes works.
I mean, it's worth noting Shigaraki did go, which is kind of like he kind of laughed. He kind of found it funny. Kind of.
Yeah. So I don't know. These two chapters are a lot of fluff. I could either talk about it for hours or I could just tell you nothing because we got nothing. And I'm not saying they're bad chapters, and I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy reading the chapters. I think, as someone mentioned on Twitter, I think the artwork, particularly in this chapter, was very, very elevated. There was a lot more detail than we've been getting from some of the previous chapters. And I felt the level of intention, empathy kind of increased to kind of set the tone that we're building into something. However, much like you said, Aniki, I very much so got the JoJo end credit cut at the end of the previous week's chapter, and then this week's chapter really did feel like maybe the first 10 minutes of an episode. Like I really felt like I read the first like 7 to 10 minutes of an episode, and I'm just like, it's like, what's next? And the thing is, we're getting ready for a fight, so obviously that's to be understood. But I'm gonna go ahead and put my criticism forward of we took too long to get here. As I've been saying time and time again, I personally feel, I'm not the writer, but I personally feel we took too long to get here. And I've been saying it, what do you do next? Because if Deku's not showing up and you're not showing us the other fights, why have we been here so long? We're finally here, and it's still just kind of like, now I gotta wait for you to drag me through the fight, because now you have to take your time with this fight, right? Like this is a very, very important fight. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, this is going to be one of the most intense fights. However it decides to span and play out, it doesn't matter. We're now definitely going to be here even longer than I thought we were gonna possibly be here. So that's my big criticism and pushback. It's not a bad thing. It's just my criticism in reading it, because I feel like we could have got here faster.
With this being, in my opinion, structured like an episode, I personally think, after like thinking on it a little more from like what I was talking about earlier today, I think at most we'd have the next 2 chapters centered on this battlefield, and then we'd swap. Because this stage of Shigaraki, this second form, when you look at the way he was running, he's kind of lumbering. He looks almost clumsy. He's like heavily reduced his speed. And what Deku it has in this current form is the ability to, like, you see the way he kind of ragdolled him with that first shot. And especially when you see it continue into 367 and the dude bounces all the way back to the edge of the stage. Like, Deku hit that man hard as hell. So I kind of look at this as like this defensive form, this second form Shigaraki is about to get rocked, because he's optimized for defense, and that's just not what you need when you're taking on Deku. Like, yes, you need to be able to protect yourself, but no. If he was able to kick you like that, we already know, like, he's still got 5 gen charges at the start. Like at the end of this chapter, you can see that it looks like both his legs are glowing, and when his left arm has 5 gen on it, it looks like he's got Wolverine claws coming out with the black whip.
Yeah, he
about to put the hurt on his boy.
Yeah.
So, and this is something that we talked about on church. I don't know if I brought it up here, but I see, because this fight reminds me very much of Planet Namek in the way that it's been structured.
Ooh, that's such a good reference.
Oh,
Ooh, I can see it. I can see
I
it.
see too.
Because even if you look back to like second form Frieza, it was this big bulky thing. And then the third form had like this oblong head or whatever. But like we might be getting that too with this. And so I see it as this second form is going to get that pressure applied to it, which is going to force him to reach out and try to find a third form. That third form is likely to prioritize speed and movement, but since we already had one that was just kind of like size based and just like a base form, just trying to figure out what you want to do. Yeah, and then we'll have a fourth stage eventually.
So I don't know if I don't know. I have mixed. I think it might be 5, or it might just be 3. And here's where my logic is. There may not be a need for another form yet. However, back to the whole, this is going to be a big emotional, mental, and physical fight. We're setting up for what you and I have talked about before, Aniki, this kind of like rescuing of Shigaraki. And that's such an important point to the entire war that it is very obvious that we can't stay here. And that's and again, if y'all been paying attention, I keep telling y'all this is like, we needed to leave to come back here. We stayed here too long. Therefore, again, this is the central fight. This is a big fight. We're gonna abandon this fight. And you know what's a sad thing? We're probably gonna be here, I'd say maybe 4 to 5 more chapters. The 2 might be spot on, but it might be a little bit more, because I think they might try to handhold some of the interaction with Shigaraki to leave us on a certain type of cliffhanger. And then in doing that, then we're not gonna we're not gonna see Deku till like next year. I mean, we're not seeing Deku like when Deku comes off the screen again, probably by the end of October or the beginning of November. We're not gonna see Deku till like springtime, guys. So and then the reason I said 5 possible transformations as well is that I think what we've seen is Shigaraki adapting to his environments. I think he's gonna adapt to Deku again. I think there's gonna be another adaptation, and then so I think he's gonna adapt to Deku. There's going to be a merger of the consciences, and then there's going to be like almost like a semi-perfect form, and then there's going to be like a perfect form. And so I think it might be 5 possible transformations in total, so 3 more transformations possibly on the loom there.
So the main reason why I've been going with 4 is because of the fact that Shigaraki's birthday is April 4th, and specifically 4 is the number of death. So to me, it made sense for us to go 4/4, get that 4th form, tie that in a bow.
The number of luck, the 4-leaf clover.
And the way I look at it is that this second form, Bakugo had a hole punched in his chest, similar to Vegeta had a hole blasted at him by Krillin, and then he had to get healed up, by Dende. So I'm kind of looking at this as like, oh, it's kind of like, it's reminding me of DBZ a lot in that way. And so like we have this environment that's like being destroyed, and we have to worry about like the environment around him falling and collapsing, and that being the end of the heroes.
At last, Goku has arrived to fight the Ginyu Force.
So let me say this, and to Spicy's comment about essentially rushing the rage. I agree. And I think if I had to actually nitpick at something from this most recent chapter that I hated the most, and I actually mean hate, is that because it's giving, it's giving Demon Slayer episode 19 and episode 20 beginning. That's what this chapter is giving. It's like this it's gonna be this really hyped up animated moment at the end of an episode, and everyone's gonna go crazy, and it's gonna be the first like minute of the next episode, and then it's not gonna get fully flushed out, or it's gonna be like dredged about. And I don't like that. I also don't like the fact that if Mirio is, I don't understand the point of the interaction with Mirio and Deku. Here's why I don't understand the interaction. Because I don't end up seeing in this chapter, maybe we'll see it next chapter, I don't end up seeing that connect together in this chapter, because so many things happen so quickly, and Deku ends up with a resolution in this chapter to me, it would have been better to let Deku sit in the anger, and then next chapter he has that conversation, he has the same flashback, and then he snaps back and he has an actual interaction with Mirimu and says like, yo, I'm here, like, you know what I'm saying? And I literally mean says I'm here, because the significance of saying that and not in his I'm here to like not in his I here like I'm here to fight, but like I'm here in presence of mind, not like the deepness of like I'm here like all might, but literally internally to himself, like, wait, no, I'm here, like I am here in this fight, I am present in this fight, like he didn't, to me, he didn't actually check out. Like I saw it drawn, but I didn't see him fully. Like, I don't know, it might just be me.
So there's a massive issue with Deku raging out here. Plot wise, it's the same thing I said about if Bakugo went down, which we eventually confirmed. Like, which everybody got shredded.
Exactly.
If Deku rages out, they lose. Period. The end.
Yeah, but then you show the Visage talking about, you know, it's okay to be angry. And you can't afford that right now. But that's dragging it. Like, what was the point? Okay, so if it's either the interaction with a million doesn't make sense, or the interaction or the flashback doesn't make sense.
Well, because what do you think Mirio's role, or what archetype do you think Mirio's supposed to fulfill within Deku's character within the story?
Oh, I think he's very much so another kind of like, I don't want to say instructor, but for lack of a better termage right now, a mentor-ish sort of guide person. However, that's not the way he's ever shown up. We gotta tweak this. He's not supposed to be a mentor figure. He's supposed to be a big bro type.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I consider all those things. I consider big bro, mentor.
But the distinction for that here, the reason why you want to make that distinction is because the big bro is supposed to do, he's basically doing what Kamina did for Simone.
Facts.
Yeah.
Like, no, before you don't even try to lose your head. I'm right here. And that's part of why, like, we had that callback to the overhaul arc with Mirio being the last one standing, Mirio being the one like, damn, I really need some help here, so that we could like have that connection reaffirmed, because he was the one that was like next to Deku and encouraging him. Because Mirio has never really necessarily instructed Deku. He's always fulfilled a role where he's supposed to be encouraging, right, and helping. Yeah,
encouraging is probably more so the word I wanted there.
And that's why I say like he's more of a big brother figure than a mentor figure, because he's supposed to be there to like help Deku up when he's down, stop him from like losing track of himself. And that's the role that Mirio played in Sun Eater's life, you know?
Yeah. But see, so hear me out now. Even with that explanation, that's still my reason. What was the purpose of then identifying that as the key function of him? What was the point of the interaction with the flashback happening beforehand in this specific chapter?
Wait, which flashback are you talking about?
Not the flashback, the interaction. Well, it is a flashback with the Visage and talking about like controlling the rage, controlling your emotions and stuff.
Oh, like talking about that is because you see that Deku's eyebrows, like if you look at his face, his brows are still furrowed. He's still angry. But, and this is a distinction that I pointed out too, is like, you guys remember the Lord Slug movie for DBZ? Mm-hmm. Remember how Goku went full Super Saiyan? Mm-hmm. So I want you to go back to the rage panel real quick. And you see that there's the black whip forming around him. It's coming out of his hair, right? Mm-hmm. See that? Now I want you to go back to the last page of the chapter.
No, I saw it. I don't know. So, I just feel let me reiterate this. I don't think it's bad. I just think it was clustered together in this one chapter, and it probably should have been spread out between this chapter and next week's chapter. Like, that's my criticism. Like, let me be very clear about what my actual criticism is. I feel like it's too congested in this spot, and it takes away from what both of those moments I think should have independently been to lead to where Deku currently ends up being, all in the end of this chapter.
So
it happens across like 5 pages.
And so what's weird about this is that I think this is something that is going to be paced. This is something that in a week-to-week manga, I would not want it spread across 2 chapters. And the reason I wouldn't want that is because it would be, how do I put this? it would almost feel like padding the runtime. Because with this, like if we get the anime episode, we'll be able to have the music playing as he's like looking and scouting and seeing stuff, get that zoom in on the card and have that reaction. Like as an anime episode, this stuff is going to be paced out fine. Like you mentioned, this could be like the first 11 minutes of an episode.
And again, that's what I said at the beginning. Like I know this is going to be good content for an anime episode.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of where this chapter gets kind of weird because like storyboarding wise for an anime, perfect. For a chapter, it can feel a little fast. I see what you're saying, and it kind of, but I would not want to spend a chapter of Deku raging because any chapter with like if Deku's raging and he's gonna fight Shigaraki, he can't rage and fight Shigaraki, or he's automatically gonna lose.
Yeah, facts. That's what Shigaraki says.
Right. So
like, that's what I'm going for this. I know the type of person you are. I'm trying to enrage you.
And so it's like we can't get a fight under the circumstance that Deku was guaranteed to lose. So he has to get psychologically reeled in. He has to be mentally pulled back. And so if you split it over 2 chapters, then that means what we really would have gotten is like a chapter where there would have been like Blackwood tendrils flying everywhere. And it basically would have been like cool to look at.
It's gonna be animated that way still.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it would have been
that's
cool,
5-minute content right there.
Yeah,
like,
facts.
It would have been cool to look at for us. Like, I guess what it comes down to is just like from a rule of cool angle, I get stretching it across 2 chapters. From a storytelling angle, I don't.
And I'll level with that then. I'll level with that. It storytelling wise, no. But I guess I'm being more critical because I'm reading it, and I'm trying to also stop reading with the mindset of week to week in mind, and think of the whole arc that I'm digesting. And I'm just like, it just felt weird. Like even, I don't know. Even just maybe chopping the last page, even just the interaction back to All For One and asking if Shigaraki is there. Now, don't get me wrong. When I take the bias filters off and I look at everything, it needed to all be in one place. That's why I'm saying like I could see like pieces of this just being the next chapter, but it's just one of those things for me where I'm just kind of like looking at it and I was like, you did a lot. You did a whole lot, and with not a lot of words, with very important expression happening from multiple characters. And then it's just kind of like you're off and you're on to the next thing in this very same chapter. You know what I mean? Like you go through almost 3 different acts in this one chapter.
Because you get the arrival, which I was glad that they just straight up confirmed, because I think we talked about this a lot.
We had supposed that
with with Stars Boys, where I was like, they're gonna get court-martialed regardless. So
yeah, they're already screwed.
Like they might as well just go ahead and help out for as long as possible before they go home.
I mean, they get blamed for the person. They get blamed for Stars and Stripes' death. So regardless, at least try to kill the big bad, and at least maybe you don't go to jail for one thing.
Well, if you think back to it, what General Akbar said was, this will cost you more than your hero license. So they were going to be court-martialed, stripped of any hero privileges, everything.
They're probably going to be in prison. Honestly, it's definitely like in the reality of what this was. If we were in the real world talking about this, like this would be grounds for treason, essentially. Yeah. Especially because you then took our number 1 hero and got her killed.
And
not saying that she wouldn't have found a way to go there herself, but you basically aided in the treason. And bro, the way America, like if we really think about America, the way our America handles things, the way that they would have tried to paint this and villainize everything that happens, even villainize her.
Very true.
Oh my gosh, like this would be on the news for like 2 months.
They'll be like, they're considered Japan's resident now. They have citizenship now. They're saved here. Yep.
It's like a reversal of the Koichi stuff, where Koichi goes to the U.S. partially to like, rehab his image and earn money. Like they're staying in Japan to get the job done because once they go back to the U.S., they're screwed anyway.
And I mean, they do support Deku because they know. Apparently, they know the secret to.
Yeah.
The U.S. government knows the secret.
I mean, the world knows the secret essentially.
Yeah,
that was what I got confirmed from that interaction, is that it's not just that it was announced, but it was announced, broadcast, and spread, and the whole entire world knows now, because All Might is a worldly figure. I think we forget about that because he spends so much time in his degraded form, losing power and he's just based in Japan. But he's like, no, he starts by he hasn't been in Japan for an extended period of time. That's literally how the series starts. He's back in Japan after not being in Japan for an extended period of time.
It's
so
also,
I think that's important to understand that his influence is literally worldly.
And if you think back to what's his name, like the Merlion from, I think he was the hero of Singapore, and he was like, All Might's one of my homies.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same was like with Salam, the number one hero of Egypt. Like they were like, yo, that's our boy. Like, what you mean? Like,
yeah, you telling us to stand down on our
telling friend, you're not sliding for our boy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was like, we'll spend a block thrice for that, man. What you mean? So it's like, but I'm just glad we got like that hard. And then the fact that they did a hopscotch formation for him, I actually really like that because he was able to like really build up Fajin. So I'm kind of like, and so for me, I guess that's where it also comes down to too, is that if we had spent a chapter letting Deku be angry and standing there and posturing, and then a chapter getting his head on straight, it would have felt like a, how do I put this nicely? It would have felt like I was reading a One Piece episode. And I mean that in the, when they do the, let me give you a shot of everybody's face that lasts 5 seconds, then pan across Luffy's hand, then pan across Luffy's face, then show you Luffy's entire body, then show you the villain's face, then show you the villain's weapon, then show you the villain's entire body, then show you both of them on screen at the same time, then to give you that split screen, and then have Luffy challenge them and say he's going to be king of the pirates or something like that. I don't want to ever read a Toei-paced chapter, if that makes sense.
No, I get you. So so let me now say this, and this is not me backtracking in any kind of way. My favorite things about this chapter, specifically this current chapter, is the transitions that happen. Like I said, it feels like we go through 3 arcs in this, and it happens smoothly, definitively, and I feel every single moment of every single panel in this entire chapter. I genuinely very much so engaged. I very much so feel like, oh, okay. And I feel like the impact and the significance of Stars and Stripes being brought back up, the timing of everything, and again, just the actual overall art and detail that went into this chapter. I have way more good things to say about this chapter than I have bad things to say about this chapter. I just have one, like I said, my one serious critique is it was a lot. It was a lot of content. And it was a lot of content. And what happens when you have 2 things that can happen when you get a lot of content like this in a chapter. And this is praise, not criticism. Mm-hmm. You either see people speak way too vaguely, or you get Hunter x Hunter level of dialogue in your chapters. God. And this chapter is paced in a way, like I said, I have my gripes with it, but it's paced in a way that makes sense. I get everything. Every single piece of this chapter is interconnected and ties from one story to another. Literally, it's like a play. I literally went from Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 in this chapter. It all makes sense, and I get why it happened in this chapter. I do genuinely get it, and I really appreciate it. And like I said, this might be my second most anticipated Deku moment that I'm waiting to see.
Oh yeah. Also, Kenny, don't worry, because there's a portion that you're gonna have to try to do the same for me and be like, wait, here, look at some of the good here, because there's some stuff. there's something we're gonna be talking about later that I'm gonna be like, look, I'm gonna be real with you.
Are we talking about One Piece later, or are you talking about For My Hero later?
Not for One Piece or My Hero, for a different series we don't talk
about.
Okay. You're gonna have to help me out, because
I'll try. I'll try.
There was also a lot of panels that doesn't feel wasted neither, because we know Hori's very concentrated on each entire panel. Even with the Miro smiling, like, yes, my boy, finally here. And then the next page, Shigaraki seeing Deku's Fajin, and I think that was from the 4th, right?
Third user. Third user. Whereas, East is taking to calling him Judan, which, okay. So this is something that I really wanted to talk, like we were talking about on stream. That's kind of cool, which is that the first 3 users seem to be the biggest thorn in All for One side up until All Might, basically. Because like think about it, he gets hit by this Fajin kick, and he's like, oh, where did I see
He's
that
dazed.
before?
Yeah, he's dazed.
Flashback. Bakugo out blitzes him and like smacks him in the face, and he's like, second user, that dude. And like, of course, Yoichi's his like little brother. And we know that the quirks weren't that great back then. So it's not like AFO was like stockpiling like the super big air cannon and stuff that he had back then. So like one of the things that I was saying was that the third user likely had a higher consistent damage output than the fourth user, and possibly even higher consistent output than Banjo, just because of the double stacking mechanic. So
the other thing is like, so y'all have you know what's crazy? We've never talked about this, but Deku is a living quirk evolution of multiple quirks.
It's true.
And so that's what makes him the scariest of all of the users thus far. It's not just that he has them. It's not that he can stack them together and double them up alone. It's the fact that it's the things that All For One remembers enhanced. And he technically has that for every single, not technically, it has been told to us that he basically has that for every single one of them. They've all evolved over time by the merging, by the stacking, by the different users and the different interfaces and a different way that people try to take advantage of, you know, mastering that. And the biggest thing with everything is that All Might didn't have access.
Nope.
And that in and of itself is actually a crucial, and I know it's going to come up again later on. It's a crucial part of everything, because I think All Might represents not the catalyst, but the vase that contains the things. Deku is really the catalyst. Ultimately, like the handoff to Deku is the catalyst, and Deku is going to be the ultimate, like, final form of it all. But I think the reason All Might had to not be able to was for there to be a generation for the quirks to evolve. That is my theory personally, and I think that's going to be something important that comes back up.
I would say narratively, that's just facts. Like narratively, hard. Like All Might was able to, because, and the thing is that when we see Deku use even like 45%, like back during the war arc when Shigaraki does the decay wave and he tries to do like a St. Louis Smash Air Force to counteract it, it's like, yeah, it didn't work. But when you think about the fact that that air blast took up the entire street, like if you're fighting him in a city, you're getting hit by that attack. Unless you're really, really, really fast, can immediately get high enough in the air, and then you're opened up to not being able to necessarily move depending on what your quirk is. So we already saw, and like, this is one of the things that's kind of funny because people used to be like, oh, he gave Deku multiple quirks because he couldn't make it interesting with just hand-to-hand combat. And I'm like, no, it's because we already saw All Might do what he did. We don't need to see more, okay, I just use air blast and hit hard. He wanted to have more stylized fights. And I actually thought All Might had multiple quirks from the jump, and then it just kind of wasn't that case, and then how it is. So I'm like, all right, cool. Because One For All was kind of described as a We Love Katamari ball of quirks. So I was like, well, we should probably have some of them picked up then, huh? But like Black Whip being able to go for miles, it looks like. The smoke screen being able to go for multiple city blocks. Clearly, like the quirks being in there and Bacon has had some substantial benefits. The only one that I feel like didn't get a massive buff off sitting there that long was Danger Sense. And that's more to do with the fact that Danger Sense only detects malice or harm, it seems. And even that might not be the case. There might become a point where Deku can train it where he can just sense any attack.
Wait, wasn't it pretty in a longer distance when he fought against Nagant? Because he was literally using that danger sense to pinpoint where she was shooting from and everything. No,
it did help him.
It did help him. You know what I think it's gonna be? It's going to help Deku pinpoint specifically the soul of Shigaraki to help Deku have that interaction to save Shigaraki, and that's gonna be the like blossoming of that quirk.
that is Shigaraki still in there question. Man,
he's in there. I love that we keep playing around with that. I love that we keep playing around with that because you notice that he goes back and forth in the writing where there's moments where he's very much so saying it's Shigaraki. And then there's moments where he's very much so like, you're all for one, right? So it's very interesting.
I think he knows this is all for one because like you see how all for one's like talking, getting to his head and like lying to him and stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's the fact that Shigaraki flashes periodically that I'm kind of like pitching at there. Right. Like there's moments where there's like it's very much so clearly not all for one.
And Lil Tenko is definitely.
Does Deku know his name? Tenko's name?
I don't think he knows Tenko, but that in of itself is something that I think will be interesting because the way Tenko kind of busts in, I could see Deku referring to him as something. And him being like, what are you talking about? I'm Tenko, blah, 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 blah. Just because he's so reactionary and how he lashes out.
Which goes back to Sam's point a couple episodes ago about, you know, the whole id, super id, you know, like that perspective. Yeah, that perspective of playing around with the ego, the ego and super ego, that playing around with all of that. I think it's going to come up again, Sam. I think it's very much so going to come up again as we kind of continue to navigate this fight, because I think, like I said, I think there's a mental part, an emotional part, and a physical part that has to happen with this. I don't think we're quite beyond the any of them, honestly. I think we got a preview of both where the emotions can lie, where the mental state, and I think we end kind of like where the mental state of everything is. But we see the physical, we see the emotional, and I think we, like I said, we kind of wrap up with the mental at the end of the chapter. And yeah, we get that big question. So is he still in there? Because I'm here to defeat you, but really I'm here to save him. And I think that's the whole story, right? The story is how I became a hero. What does it mean to be a hero? A hero is responsible for saving and protecting lives. All the lives. Doesn't matter who it is. Save and protect. Come on, police. Y'all take notes. Serve and protect. Everyone.
You're not lying though. So yeah, like, and I think that's part of, to a certain degree, you could argue that Deku went through that same battle in this chapter, where it was the id being like, rage out, whoop his ass, do it. Because that's that primal energy, you know? And then the super ego, or in this case, Mirio, functions as that to be like, that's not what you need to be doing right now. X, Y, and Z is what's going on over here. ABC is why you got to do this. D, E, A, F, you know, for that, make sure you stay focused because you can't afford to lose. And then when Deku was like, is Shigaraki still in there? We're centered back on like the ego in the final chapter, or him coming back to his true self and being like, is Shigaraki in there? Because that's my goal, is to figure out if I could save him or if I just got to try to beat you down. And so it's like that mental state that we watched Deku kind of run through in this chapter, we're going to see Shigaraki cycle through over the next couple, or any that involve the two of them, or this fight or this stage. So yeah. Wait, this isn't the boys, the best hero story. I wouldn't say all that.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
There's definitely a lot of collateral damage. I don't know. We might not be too far.
Wait, Sam, were you saying you wouldn't go too far about the boys being the best superhero story or something else?
Oh yeah, that. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I have the boys comfortably sitting at a B grade. So
it's interesting and fun and more realistic, but
I thought that was a play on the My Hero Academia. I didn't know you were saying the boys is the best hero.
No, it was a response to something in the chat. Somebody said like, this isn't the boys the best hero story, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah,
the boys is fun, but I don't have it up like that.
No.
So anything else for My Hero, y'all?
These are setup chapters, so I'm not too worried about it. If anything, I want to ask you guys, do you, because like I said, I think we could spend 2 more chapters here. You know, Kenny, you said like 4 or 5. But I will also say that there's a part of me that's like, if we cut away from this right now, I wouldn't be shocked either.
Yeah, if it was next chapter, literally next chapter, would not
And
be shocked. Wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I feel like next chapter just literally just transition to the different other fights and stuff. It's been a while since we've seen Toga and Ochako's fight already. Like it's been over a year, I think.
Let me see.
It was the first interaction, so it has to have been at least a year.
It's been a while.
It's like JJK. We haven't seen Yuji over a year.
Yo, you know what'd be funny? You know what'd be funny if today was the year anniversary of that chapter dropping.
The last time we saw Toga and Ochako, let's see, 344.
But that was a good way to push the buttons from All for One. It's like, yo, so are you gonna blame you being late the reason why all this happened? Are you even blame Toga for this? Make your excuse, man. Like there was nothing I can do. I never saw it coming. You knew. Everybody knew.
Yeah.
And then it's just like you're running from your responsibilities. You were supposed to be here. You were supposed to protect these people. Bakugo shouldn't have been this bad of a shape.
The thing that's so scary, I think, about All for One in regards to like this verse is he's also very aware of what it takes to be a hero. And that's what makes his villainy that much more heinous. That's what makes his mind games that much more heinous. Because he knows and he plays into that fact.
I think the last time we saw Toga in them was March.
This March?
Yeah.
Last March?
Because it was that's when
I thought
I'm looking at it now.
It felt so much longer.
Like the actual like interaction initially, or was that like a cutback?
We got a little bit of Toga and Ochako in March, where she's like, that's where we leave off with, I'm Himiko Toga and I've got no use for heroes, so get ready to say bye-bye. And then it's like the Dabi stuff starts, I think.
Dang, was the Dabi stuff only like a month and a half?
Man, 350, because I feel like almost like we've gotten less.
It feels so far away because it's like I know
this fight much longer than all the rest of it then?
Yes.
Significantly so. I think we brought that up last week that it's like it's the length of like almost all of those chapters. I was just guessing, but I was saying it feels like the duration of everything else we've gotten so far, basically. I'm trying to think. No, we didn't stay on Gigamaki long. We didn't stay on Spinner long, so that would make sense. They both got like a chapter or 2 by themselves. So I guess it could have been. I guess it was earlier this year. I guess that does.
It's just that
we started the Toga thing at the bottom or the top of this year. The bottom of last year, the top of this year.
Like March is around the last time we saw Toga, and then the Shoto stuff. And I think part of it comes down to like
when did the war start? When did this final clash start? That's like the better question.
You talking about like this whole arc as a premise, or like
yeah. Once we got to like this is like this actually started.
February 13th was when we got the Aoyama calling All for One on the phone.
Okay, man. So
basically,
why did I think that was like last summer, bro?
It's so because a lot has happened this year.
Golly, and we've had like several breaks in between there too. That's the crazy part.
Like a lot has happened in this year of My Hero.
Yeah, the content is that of feeling like a year, but it's actually only been.
And it's also been shorter amount of pages too. So usually it's at like 12, 13 pages. This time it has like 15 pages technically.
Yeah, we're getting more content. Again, that's my comment. That's my praise is that I'm getting a lot in a very healthy balance.
Real life, I really do care about the Ochakasu and Toga fight a lot.
That's
because
the whole entire reason why we love Twice and we actually
Toga's my favorite. Toga's my favorite character.
Some like real like we want to see how this resolves. This is like real shit.
And Toga's has Twice's blood.
Yeah, Toga is actually arguably the person I'm most scared of in this current fight, based off of a series of things that have happened. And again, like I just said, Toga's my favorite character in the series. Since she always, from the time they showed her and like explained her, I was like, I really genuinely like this character.
It's also kind of scary that we're not even too sure if Toga might even survive at the end of this, because I could think of it this way: how Toga was killing that reporter during the My Hero villain arc. I'm afraid Ochako might have to do that, the same technique, because there's so many twice copies and her copies and that sort of stuff. It's probably the only way to like take down the numbers within the clones and stuff like that. But it can more be an accidental casualty kind of thing. But it's more of she has no other choice. It was either to go let the 1,000 twice copies be on the ground invading everybody, or have them all up in the air and just let the fall damage happen and just let it has no choice but them.
Oof, boy.
I mean, she
some
could
dark
just,
some dark stuff you just described there.
She could pull a Joseph Joestar and just kind of let her float off to space.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But yeah, Sam, did you have any other extra thoughts in regards to?
I actually didn't think that we needed the Deku Rage Mode fight kind of thing, because we got that during the war arc. Like literally the same stuff. Dagogo got hurt, like literally stabbed and hurt. Deku became the emotional type and gone rage with the black whip and everything.
And almost got a 1-for-all stolen.
Got into that last fight, and but at least that's how he found out about Tenko.
So I think it's a growth thing. I think at the end of the day, and I think that's why this chapter does work well, is because it was shown this way, and that's why he felt the need to contain it in a chapter. I think it's a sign of a lot of different growths, and in a short amount of time, which is another point that Shigaraki kind of points out, is like he's definitely stronger.
Yeah, like he got ragdolled and was wait. I'm in my defensive form. That hurt more than what he was hitting me with. Oh, come on, y'all! Like,
right. What happened out there? But also trying to get in his mind all at the same time.
Which I think that's another case of him underestimating these heroes, right? And I think that's part of what All For One's All For One personality influence. Because if you think about it, All For One kind of treated Endeavor like he was not going to be able to touch him at all. And then, like, as he was coming in with the Vanishing Fist, remember, he was like, wait, the heat's getting through my hard flame fan. What's this? And then Endeavor was like, I'm going to just ball real quick. And he was like, well, I guess turns out fire kills everything. So I'm just getting my ass beat now, huh? And it was like, yeah, kind of. You kind of are. So same thing here. He didn't think about the fact that if Deku was able to hit, like, obviously he doesn't have the exact percentages Deku's using, but he wasn't thinking of it like, well, Deku was able to hit like 45% back towards the beginning of April, end of March, and now we're in May, and he spent like a month straight grinding and gaining XP, fighting niggas left and right. So now, like, he didn't factor that in and think, oh yeah, maybe he's stronger than he used to be. And you notice we haven't gotten any percentage updates right now. So we have no idea what percent of 1-for-all Deku was using here.
Hey, he hit something and he didn't declare it, and he hit with a force of a full 100. So I just was like, I don't want to think anymore. I literally thought about it. I was like, he didn't declare an attack, but that attack rocked him. And I was like, he didn't say something smash. He didn't say nothing. That I think that was just raw power of his current self, and that in itself is scary, because that means he could probably turn it up a lot more.
Well, because he's using his Kaioken technique,
right?
So he's just applying that. If Deku decides to actually use 100% with his Fajin,
yeah, he gotta go Super Saiyan God with the Kaioken.
He's gonna rip out a little piece of his body, like, with that kick. So
he could grow it back.
And Deku's probably realistically still consciously holding back. So, but yeah, that's it for me, y'all. I don't think
we got to do too much.
No, this wasn't too much.
This was set up.
No, we was already here, y'all. It's been longer than y'all think.
Yeah,
but it was worth it. I'm excited. I'll be very happy if your point of like we just go to like a next thing immediately. next chapter, I'd be really happy with that. I would actually be the most happy with that direction.
Okay, let's move on to JJK.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about JJK.
I do have some questions about JJK though. It's like for one thing, it does confirm that Maki is now full Toji now, but it's also opened up some more questions on it does open up the question where, like, before, when we saw the domain during the Shibuya arc, we had the fight of Maki, Megumi, the other sorcerer fighting that Kappa curse sorcerer in his own domain expansion.
Mm-hmm.
But Toji just literally just let himself in there. In this situation, when Naoya uses his domain expansion, Maki literally could just move anytime she wants to, or just it does not affect her because she has no curse energy, just like Toji.
So, and this is why I was like, you might have to come through for me here on this one, Kendall, because the biggest issue I've had with this situation is that it's genuinely just felt ridiculously convenient. And that's the only way I can describe this colony. Convenient. I guess the upside is that I don't think Naoya was a registered curse within the game. Just like Maki can't be an actual player in the game, but it just
So
it just hasn't sat right with me, especially because it's like, all right, we got the katana dude so that she can learn how to wield her sword better. We got the hyperbolic time chamber so she could train and get her better utilization of her senses better. And then it's like, all right, cool. And domains don't work on you. And I'm like, all right, this is, well, shit, like, cool. I guess it wasn't as satisfying for me. And like, I just wish there was a bit more, how do I put this? I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. I feel like there wasn't enough real adversity in this fight, at least. Like,
no, it was fake.
ended up, like,
it was fake from start to finish. It was fake. Maki was already way too strong. And I think it's one of those writing yourself in a hole and trying to write yourself out of it afterwards. I think very intentionally understood what they were doing with Maki and where they were trying to get Maki from, like, point A to point B to point C. However, Maki, like I said, from the time she came back, Maki is stronger than everyone. That was without a doubt. And I think there wasn't a proper way to explain and showcase how all of those things essentially came together. And as such, we ran into this conundrum. She has powers. She's already strong. She already has the muscle. The bow is there in place. She can kind of see things without the glasses now, but she still has no curse spirit. And what happened was, I think there was probably some more things that should have got flushed out in the chapters when Maki initially inherited that power and fought him.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it was important to bring him back as the catalyst to kind of bring that story full circle again. But it's so late. And it happens after we've now had, what, 5 colony fights? Or is this the 5th colony fight?
Let's see. We had Yuji versus Iguruma, Megumi versus Reggie, Yuta versus
6.
What's they face? Hakari versus Kashima, but Hakari also fought Charles.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is like,
and what's his name?
Too.
Oh yeah, Panda versus Kashima.
Yeah. And then did we say what's his name? Yuta?
Yeah, we did.
Oh yeah, Yuta versus
Uro and fights. The cockroach.
So yeah, I will say if you wanna, even if you wanna combine them, it's still it's a lot of series of fights. And before we got to this, like, or at the beginning of this, I don't know if you were here, Aniki, but I kind of pointed that out. There's like the stakes have been building as we introduce new characters in the sequence of the colonies. And I didn't understand how to showcase Maki because we already understood everything we needed to know about Maki, right? If the idea was, which they confirmed, is that she is basically the second coming of what's his name, then Toji, then it's just like, well, yeah, we kind of pieced that together ourselves already here.
Yeah, it's just,
you know what I mean? So it's just
we were just
like
really
already,
comparing how much are they together exactly.
Right, exactly.
Like
how much similarity is there? Is there anything that's special or different or unique about her in regards to this approach? Is there something that's innate to the clan? These are the questions that we kind of had, and guess what? We didn't really get any answer about any of that until the end of this chapter. So what did we watch the fight for? What was the prelude of the fight? What was the initial meetup with the what's his name as well? Like it feels like they was just trying to put, it's like the story was there and it just felt like Gege tried to fill in around the story, which I think is accurate. And I don't think I don't want to say I expected as much, but that is kind of, it seems to be their preferred writing style. They kind of seem to like to write backwards a lot. And I think sometimes that just doesn't work out for any writer, right? That just doesn't always pan out. And I think we got so much back then and not enough now that it just felt like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in. What was the purpose of him showing up when he showed up? What was the purpose of the other two people being present where they showed up? Are they even actually in a colony? Or are they like in transit to a colony? I'm just saying, we've been here so long, I don't even remember what happened at the beginning of this fight. Why was this fight so long? You know?
Yeah.
So I will, however, to bring you back in.
Thank you.
We did get good things from this fight. This fight isn't fully wrapped up. We'll probably have it's concluded. The fight's over, right? But we got the confirmation. It took the whole fight, but we got the confirmation. Toji next gen. We got an updated status on where Maki is. I think we also get a realization of the things that happen in the clan aren't far removed from the timeline of when this happened, which was one of the criticisms that I have, is that I didn't really understand. I was just alluding based off of what I assumed to be blood splatter and scars that this probably did, like she probably showed up very shortly after the incident that happened at the Zenin clan. And so
if you go back over a year, Fushiguro talked to Hikari, I think the day before the Zenin massacre, because he was like, I'm the head of the Zenin clan. And Hikari was like, And then I think it was like a little bubble. It was like one day before the Zenin massacre or something like that.
Yep. So I said that because, like I said, I think we all kind of, a lot of time hasn't passed. And I guess that's kind of like to go back to the point is that we've actually got a lot happen that probably happened congruently, almost congruently. We know that they're like offset from each other based off of the rules, right? So that's like the other thing. Based off of the rules announcement are basically giving us a certain timeline for the way that these fights are concluding. And I think what we've gotten from this is, one, we got a loop around the rule for one of the rules that they needed in Maki. I think that was a very big point. I think
she can move between colonies.
Yeah, I think the point that she can move between colonies became a super relevant point. She's already somebody that can move as superhumans, movements and speeds and strengths. So like her being able to go between colonies created this whole other vacuum of things that just, it was like a win for the home team. On top of that, again, we did see Maki come back. We got an explanation about the sword that she inherited, because that, I felt that was super glossed over back in the Zani massacre. We got basically an understanding of why we got the full scope of her psyche. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but it was something that kind of got glanced over, because what we saw was Maki has been walking in grief. And even in most of this fight, I think she is literally just existing in a state of grief and just moving. And I think it's important to kind of flush out, like, okay, she did need time to, I think that time in the verse She was able to process where she was, what she needs to do, what she inherited, and all of these things were all like process of her healing from her trauma. And I think those are the good parts. I'm not gonna step away from the fact that there's a lot of just fluff. It's just this whole fight has felt like fluff. But you know what? There was parts of the previous fight that felt like fluff to me. And there's parts of, and it feels like there's been progressively more fluff with these fights.
And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, without question now, at least for me, the best segment of the Culling Games was the Megumi versus Reggie fight.
It was absolutely the Megumi versus Reggie fight. And then the next best thing was Yuta, his actual fight. Not the fluff, but the actual, just the combat that happened and everything. Mm-hmm. And then what have we really got in since then? We got a cool ability. Hikari's abilities. And then they got fluffed.
For me, one of the things that I didn't like about the Hikari fight, which I kind of talked to one of my buddies about after the stream, and it was like, he didn't use the doors outside of his domain. I don't think he used the doors in the domain. Didn't use the ball. Kashimo didn't comment on the roughness of his curse energy. While in Jackpot State, he technically has infinite curse energy, so you would think we would see some techniques that exploit the rough texture of his curse energy so that he can like cleave people or something like that with punches. And we got like nothing like that. Just general hand-to-hand combat and him just constantly healing. And like, at first it was kind of cool. Like some of the stuff was cool to like see him like use reverse curse technique and like push his opponent's curse energy out through his nose. But after a while, it was just like, okay, we get it. He's immortal while Jackpot is active. That's fine. That wasn't hard to understand. And it's like they just kept adding, like it's like Gege wanted to like cover a bunch of bases of immortality, and it's like we get it. If anything, I don't care if there's an exception. You already explained that the exception would have been if he had managed to have his brain destroyed. Anything else, up in the air. So, not that worried about it. If he can push cursed energy out of his body, then it's assumed that he'd be able to deal with poison, and we spent some time with him dealing with poison. I'm hoping that after this Maki section, we're gonna get focused on like plot advancement again. Because Maki can't even make rules. Mm-mm. So she's just there to randomly take people out of the game.
I mean, Naoya wasn't even part of the game. He never accepted this round neither.
She's not a messenger pigeon, but a messenger wolf, basically. She's a messenger battle wolf. She can take messages and she can deal immense damage and destruction on their wake. But I think, and this is gonna sound really harsh, I think everything outside of the Yuji and Megumi part of this Culling Games has been over-glorified setup.
Yeah.
Just stretched out, over-glorified setup for what I'm hoping is going to end up being something really epic over the span of the next part of whatever this sequence is. I don't know if it's gonna be like a different arc or whatever. I don't know how they're gonna phrase it, so I don't want to like assume anything. But whatever the next step of things are, I think, like I kept saying, I think a lot of this has been explaining the different strengths, weaknesses, versatility, and uniqueness of domain expansion. That's the biggest unique thing about every single one of these fights, that they have presented a different, unique, or a broader perspective on domain expansions in some specific form. So, and I think that's been the thing that I've appreciated. But again, that's what makes this arc feel even more cheesy, because if what she's contributing is she's unaffected, why did I need the entire all right, he got pushed to a limit, so he unlocked his domain expansion, and much like we had assumed before, and we kept saying, is like, it only makes sense for it to be an absolute hit or a guaranteed hit type of ability. That's the only thing that made sense for the type of ability that he had. And why would it be anything else?
We even guessed that I was like, it kind of has to be
something similar
the palm
to
ability.
Yep,
and it just ended up being cellular palm ability, and I'm like, all right, cool.
Yep, and we said it
Oh.
had to be similar to Megumi's, and we word for word in the chapter. Like we really like, and I think that's the gripe. The gripe is, so unlike other series that we talk about where we're always praising, hey, the unpredictability, things like Undead Unluck, it's like you're becoming too predictable to a point where I'm getting impatient waiting for you to just announce the thing that I've already understood, because you did write it so well. You wrote it so well that I clearly understand it, and you're just taking a very long time to confirm the thing that you have basically already explained to me.
It's a case of the, yeah, I get it. It's a thing that I think a lot of authors walk a very tight line between I accidentally under-explain and people get lost all the time, or I explain a lot of stuff so people get it, but then there are readers who already understand it, or they understand the explanations, and then you add on a couple extra rules, and it's like, okay, yeah, and then you do a bit more talking, and it's like, okay, dude, I get it. I don't need this many chapters to explain this point. And yeah, Tagashi and Gege are the biggest offenders of this. And you know, Gege is a big Tagashi fan, so that's kind of what that is. And to the Yuji should have died against Higurama point, I'm glad he didn't, because one of the things about JJK that is kind of like a small thorn in my foot is that I like, there's people who are like, Yuji's gonna die at the end of the series. Yuji's gonna die at the end of the series. I don't believe that anymore. I can't believe that. And I can't believe it because within, you know, the first 10 chapters, he had his heart ripped out and was brought back from the dead. Choso basically killed him and destroyed him, and he was given 10 fingers, so he came back to life. And then like 30 or 40 chapters later, Yuta kills him, which per the rules of the pact he made, basically says he did kill him and brought him back to life anyway. So I'm like, Yuji's already been brought back to life 3 times within 150 chapters, more or less. I don't need to see him fight Higurama, die, and then still somehow get brought back. I don't need that.
I just want y'all to know y'all flame Dragon Ball Z for this all the time. So don't come and follow this up later and be like, oh no, in other series. We know. And guess what? We got a problem with it in other series too.
They will.
Which is why we're pointing it out now.
And that's also kind of why, like, I'm like, if I see people mad about, you know, certain other series doing this recently, but they ain't said nothing about this, I'm not taking you seriously.
I mean, technically, I mean, we can say the same thing with Bakugo. Technically did die more than once.
Everybody was in
life,
a tussle. Like, everybody was in a tussle when Bakugo came back to life. And again, I will air quotes that because technically he ain't been resuscitated yet. So as far as I'm concerned, he's not back to life.
The Ed shot dog in him has not hit yet, so
yeah, he ain't inhaled the Ed shot deep enough yet. But back to the JJK point, it's frustrating, man. And that's the only thing I have to say about it. I'm happy to see Maki. I'm happy to get this. I almost wish though that he gave us something else. I wish there was more. I wish it wasn't, oh, she's told you 2.0.
Yeah.
I really wish there was something more to that. I wish it was deeper, especially because there's 2 souls that's a part of this. We get the reference whole thing to the sister that's brought up, and I needed more. And so much of what I got wasn't even in action or thought. It was just narrative exposition.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but literally all of the key takeaways from this chapters are just exposition.
Because I feel like that's only Gege's way of explaining to the readers that this is what's been happening, the rule. Like, again, but the whole over explanation kind of thing. But
yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. And the other thing about this is that now that we've had a soul slicing weapon get introduced, now you can kill Sukuna within Yuji without killing Yuji if she can see both of their souls.
It was a replica, right? Though it wasn't the original sword.
It still has the same abilities.
It's interesting now, like thrown in the replica, meaning like, so these cursed weapons can literally be remade and everything like that, just so that someone else could be used in tricks, but only like extremely rare weapons can, which kind of makes sense. Technically, you could use this blade to break out Gojo, couldn't you? If it's to like cut the soul. I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
Maybe it doesn't
You know
work
what?
totally.
Real life, you know what? Thank you for reminding me that. At least it's not at least he's not Natsu. That's not exactly the highest bar, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
I think what
I
also sorry.
I don't even get the comment. You guys, I'm gonna read this out loud just for myself. You guys praise the series when the series broke its power system season 1. They introduced a power system you just already grade 1. What was the point of the grade system?
Oh, I didn't like that either.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't know.
I've never liked that either.
I don't know if that's a consensus that people like that, but I don't like it. That's one of
like
that was one of my biggest.
They had no
choice.
balance. They had literally no
There
way
is,
to read.
There still is no balance. There is none.
Technically, Yuta is special class grade, and even Sukuna hated this. Literally, it was like a fourth world breaking. When
one of my biggest irritations with the grade system is that objectively Toto was like a grade 1 sorcerer paired with Yuji, and they were given the business to a special grade. Like, what was the point of giving us grades 4 through 1, and then we only spend time fighting special grades from like chapter 50 on?
Yeah, no, I think it was an interesting idea, and I think it was kind of to play into the whole school aspect, but we got nothing from it. Like you said, we immediately just didn't care about the system. It felt like I'm gonna be real with you. I feel like the only purpose of the system was to disrespect Maki.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else the system existed for. It just put a certain perspective with Maki that also has to kind of play into the buildup of everything that ends up happening with her story. I don't really, because it's not like special grades have some classes in themselves. It's just special grades.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's
another thing that
special grades. There's no hierarchy in there.
That cursed sorcerer
Everyone's
that ate one
grades.
of Sukuna's fingers was declared as a special grade, and Sukuna was complaining like, you know that you're declaring us we're both as special grade sorcerers. And, like, I think that was just really stupid. It's like, I know I'm way beyond you. I'm more powerful than you are and stuff like that. And like you are, it's just like they have no way to read this, no way how to scale this and all that shit like that. It's like,
but you know what that is, right? That's that. And I don't say this as criticism to Bleach. I'm saying that this is the inspiration of Bleach's system for dealing with
So here's the thing about that though, and I know it won't be popular to say it, but Bleach did it better.
You was going where I was going with it. That's why I said this ain't criticizing Bleach now. Don't get what I'm saying wrong. This ain't criticizing Bleach, but this is a certain level of inspiration inspired a certain direction, and it wasn't elevated. And we praise JJK a lot for elevating things from the old generation into their current layout. And this has been the biggest miss that we've seen thus far. This has been the biggest miss. It's the power system.
Like the power, because the power system is well explained, but at this point it's like a lot of the rules that exist, Gege very much writes by the rules are made to be broken anyway. So it's like we get a lot of rules, but those rules don't truly matter. And I guess you could say that he had Mahito and Kenjaku to have that what did he say? Oh, because I guess we have different curse techniques, so we existed within different worlds. So it's whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess. Yeah. So in addition to that, like Ichigo beat every person he fought with the power up and him being a new species. Not really accurate. And if I'm going to be honest, Itadori is heavily inspired by Ichigo from the standpoint of he has the same structural origin as Ichigo. Especially for people who have actually read the 1,000-Year Blood War. Let me break this down for you real quick. Just if we want to be nice, do we want to say curses count as hollows just to be easy about it?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know why I couldn't remember hollows earlier. Just couldn't remember it.
If curses are hollows, then you have, Ichigo being able to tap into hollow power via White. White is a demon within trope. White was passed to Ichigo via his mother, who more or less was attacked by White specifically because of Aizen. Aizen is the Kenjaku of this. Kenjaku is Aizen. Aizen is Kenjaku. Everyone look at that. So Aizen facilitates Sukuna landing inside of Itadori. Aizen facilitates White landing inside of Ichigo's mom, and then get it passed to him through her. So then he's got the demon within, just like Sukuna. Pass that on, like with the fact that she was a Quincy, and then he gets the Quincy DNA from her, which allowed him to absorb the full scope. And then like his dad was a Soul Reaper, blah blah blah. But the thing is that Itadori blatantly has a body that is similar to or comparable to heavenly restricted bodies. It is one of the first things we learn about him. Yuji is built very similar to Toji, just like Ichigo. And if we want to go with the heavenly restriction, for all intents and purposes, people with heavenly restriction might as well be the Quincy's. Notice there's way less of them. They're practically extinct. So for all intents and purposes, Maki is a Quincy. So Itadori is part Quincy. He's got the hollow in him from Sukuna. So there you go, got that covered. Since he's learned how to do manipulate curse energy, he's got the Soul Reaper stance, because he's the one that's going around killing the hollows or curses of the world. He's already all three. He's been all three from like chapter 3. Technically like chapter 1. So
in his rage mode is Sukuna, but at least Sukuna has literally his own personality kind of thing, which
that's part of why Vasto Lourdes, Ichigo as people like to call it, damaged Uryu. It was White.
Yeah. And people forget that White is
White had its own personality.
Is its own entity, just like the Shikai's, the swords are their own entity and personality. So it's really the same thing. Like it's really like also, very much so the same thing.
You're right. Ichigo's physical form was better balanced than Itadori's was, but yeah, it is the Ichigo formula to make Itadori. And that became clear to me the second we got that. Oh, he was his mom. He just took it a step further, and instead of it being like a person who basically pushed these two together and did an experiment, it was like, I'm gonna get nutted in to make a baby so that I can do this.
I mean, y'all see what cursed seeds and cursed wombs, they already kind of laid out a foundation for explaining that ahead of time. So and it's not, again, it's I don't want to I feel like we're sandbagging away from the chapter a bit. So I just want to say, like, I think that it's important to understand that every story has the ability to tell its own story.
Yeah.
I still believe Gege has the ability to tell a very unique story that is very unique to the vision that they have laid out. I really think that Gege already fully knows where, how, and what timing he wants to end the story in. And I think that is it's a double-edged blade. It's both his greatest offense and it's both his greatest inflicted damage, is that he already knows very, very, I think a lot more finitely than we realize where he wants the series to go. And I think that ends up being an issue. That's it.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a great asset. Sometimes it catches us off guard. There was times where there were times where we really were getting caught off guard with decisions in JJK. That's not been the case for a while. And we always say, like, oh yeah, it feels like it's really good after we come back from a break. And it is. He takes a break, he resets, he does whatever. But then as that carries on for a little bit, we end up exactly where we are right now.
I actually want to bring up when Gege was explaining narrative, what Naoya must use an actual structure as the barrier's exterior, like Fushiguro did for Tokyo Con #1. Meaning, like, this is Naoya's way of trying to make the entire circle or the space area of what he was supposed to, but the difference was not Megumi's was an incomplete domain expansion. So
Well,
wouldn't that mean Megumi's incomplete domain would have allowed Maki in?
so Megumi's domain is different than the way that. So Megumi does not create a space; he layers his over it. So Megumi is making a domain that functions similarly to Sukuna's, where you can walk out of it at any point. But are you going to actually be able to walk out of it is the real question. Because if you remember, Reggie tries to counter Megumi's domain with the hollow wicker basket. And he's like, wait, those things actually existed before they attacked me. and then he starts getting smacked around by Megumi
up.
clones and stuff because it was like, nah, bruh, I wasn't just. This isn't a sure hit domain. This is a technique enhancement domain.
Mm-hmm.
So his domain would still work on Maki. What that was designed to do was to, one, let us know just how real and important Sukuna's domain is, because it basically counters all domains. You can try to drop a domain on him, but if all he has to do is just drop it on the world itself. And Megumi's going down a similar path, so it kind of shows you why Sukuna was so interested in him.
Yep.
The Toji influence in the chat children, like his existence lives on. Honestly, his influence and everything lives on. So,
ooh, yeah, you gonna have to world trigger me on Twitter, because I'll go on a rampage talking about world trigger. Yeah, but I get the reference. I get the reference, and I get why you even brought that up just now. But like, at the end of the day, I'm gonna go back and say, like I just said, JJK is telling a good story. I enjoyed the story. I think we're just very much so aware of what's happening right now.
I've always said JJK is like the big meathead series in Jump, and I know a lot of people get mad when you say that.
It is,
but it really is. It
absolutely is.
But at least
much like Chainsaw Man is about to be. Y'all didn't want to hear that either, but
it still has structure and it's a pretty good story to it, and it looks really nice. Like, why is it? It's 100% shown. Like that's.
But at the end of the day, Maki got all these buffs and experiences over the course of like 2 to 3 days, and that's kind of insane. Like,
yeah, I mean, we see people level up in fights, so it's crazy because of what it is and because we can tie it to other things. But just because they weren't the person that did it first doesn't mean that they can't still do it well and in a unique way. And I think for the most part, most of the things, I'm going to say 9 out of 10 things is very unique to JJK. Whether you see influence from another series or not, it's very unique to JJK. And I appreciate that.
So moving on, technically after this, we're going back to Yuji, right? Because I'm pretty sure that's everybody.
We might get some Miwa or something like that, but
hey, we don't know if Noboru is really, really dead.
Nah, she just needs her special appearance thing.
Look, Nobara is one of those things where if she comes back, cool. If she doesn't,
also cool.
I just wish you had gotten to the point sooner with it, Gege, instead of
hanging everybody saying there's a possibility she's still alive.
Like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I just want the plot line to actually be wrapped up. Especially because the only reason I'll say I don't want her to have died is because if you go back and you look at Nobara's entire run through the story, there is no fight that she won by herself.
No, there isn't.
She could have.
She could have with the painting.
She almost did.
The painting, the blood painting people.
Nope. She finished the job. Yuji did most of the damage.
She could have won that. She could. I think
she
if
was
they
very
fought
ballsy,
separate,
though.
if they have fought separate fights, I think that she could have won that. However, they were both, in my opinion, Yuji and Noboru were at an advantage type-wise in that fight. So I don't know if that's necessarily even about a matter of like scaling. I think that they were perfect counters to it running in. Like, again, convenience. Like, they just conveniently fought those two, and they conveniently had abilities that were very much so the antithesis of what their strengths were.
Because if it is just pain, Yuji Itadori will not stop. One of the hardest lines in the series, but also directly being immune to one of the most important aspects of your opponent's ability, pretty convenient.
So I'm gonna answer Real Life's question when he said like, but she wasn't that irrelevant from day one, because remember, she actually played a pretty important role when we were fighting Mahito. Literally, when Mahito literally separates himself so many times in his soul and everything, literally, Noboru's like curse spirit, no, not curse ability was literally the whole string doll and at least have a piece of your curse technique or your curse anything residue, and she can aim it directly at your heart. It's a pretty deadly ability.
I think y'all are sleeping on how strong she is.
She's pretty. She's OP.
She's one of 5 characters in the series that have used Black Flash. Let's just stop right there.
She has
I don't know what else you like. We don't get enough of her screen time for you to understand that.
She had potential. She just never got to deliver on it.
Exactly.
That's why I'm like,
I'll even say like with Chainsaw Man with Makima. Remember when like Makima just like sacrifices her own soldiers just so that she could kill certain devil that's on the field? It's literally can be just like that. All she need is a part of the body or some kind of residue of that other person's curse technique, and then boom, straw doll, boom, boom, boom. Literally, she could do instant kills in any direction because there's no range. Her ability has no range.
I actually think Nomura's ability is more broken than we realize, honestly.
I think it has a lot of potential. I think it's interesting that she was like, blood isn't that strong of a connector though, because it's way harder to get than, like a piece of hair. But
I think they wanted to separate the differentiation because we already had a clan that's powers were rooted in blood. I think that's what that was about personally.
But yeah, I figure we'll see Nobara back because we need her specific powers for this reason, for this set enemies or something like that. So
yeah.
Any last thoughts for JJK?
Let's get back to Megumi for real sorcery. But nah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping we get to more stuff that we can enjoy, but otherwise, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I'm good on it.
All right, cool. We could go into Undead Unluck. There's a lot we could say about that now too.
Undead Unluck. Let me pull the chapters up just because Undead Unluck made me happy this week. Very happy.
They also made me happy last week, honestly. Like, we're literally seeing the power of God, and literally this is an entire, and I don't know how you guys feel about this. Literally, you have both gods saying, yeah, we're just playing a game in this kind of universe, which...
Yeah. Like, Luna confirming I'm not actually better than God. The sun god, I'm just the one that happens to be on your side, kind of.
Right, it's not even on your side. You're the team that I just happen to be betting on.
Yeah, I drafted you.
Yeah, I'm not nationwide. I'm not really on your side, but I chose you to go against him. So good luck with that.
And then also, it's kind of crazy to think that like, instead of Luna being like, let me just give them abilities that are raw, it's like, I'm gonna give you all specific negations and like super strict qualified. And I'm like, what?
I get it. I get it. I get
like,
it because it's supposed to be. I think it was because they wanted to emphasize that it can affect Sun. Like at the end of the day, it can affect Sun, but obviously what we saw was the sheer immenseness of what the entity Sun is. It doesn't matter if you can hit it. It doesn't matter if you can stop it. It doesn't matter if you can use anything on it. Like it doesn't.
Him moving is literally like rocking the earth. Like even just one step onto and everything.
Well, that was what was crazy too, is that I'm trying to figure out like, what did Sun even do to attack Chikara?
They did not even try to circle back around. A light beam, I guess. A Uma spawned and used something. We don't know. He got shot with some massive piece of tree. Like it literally just looks like a light flash passes by.
Yeah, he has. Oh, I think he had something behind his neck, so that he avoids the unmove ability from Chikara and just have it shot backwards. Oh no, or shoot the other way around?
Yeah, I guess shoot the other way around, but that's I don't know. Again, Sun can produce Umas, so I don't really think it matters.
Man,
if I'm being quite honest, like Sun can just create something else. Like, even if you just froze Sun in its place, like that was the immediate thing that I had. I was like, he can just spawn something that can free him. Yeah. The same thing was like, oh yeah, we stuck him to there, and I knew that was gonna happen. It's like he's just gonna step out of that eventually. But I thought it was good. I thought the writing was really good across these two chapters. I thought that the emotional and the actual delivery, I thought the callbacks and bringing back people in, I thought everything about these chapters was really solid.
I think the only difference we never really seen a difference is God literally pulling out even more Uma as an army to use them to fight to kill more time or something like that. Mm-hmm.
But we did get what I feared, guys. Y'all saw the timers.
Yep.
Y'all saw the timers.
It's moving faster than 25. I thought, though.
Yeah, that's faster than I thought. Nice. We already got it was like it's gonna take 11 minutes. We're already at 8 minutes and 25 seconds.
So a chapter every.
Now y'all know.
I know we got to worry about the 5 minute mark.
That boss said the last 5 minutes of the last minute is gonna be a whole different shebang, or it might not. I'm very. This series always somehow finds a way to surprise me. And I'm interested in seeing how either traditional this OP fight happens, because they're about to get massacred. I don't know if y'all understand that. Like, their purpose is to lose here. Mm-hmm. Not y'all present. I know y'all understand. I meant people who won't come back and watch this. Other readers, I don't know if y'all realize, like, they're supposed to lose and they're gonna lose badly. And the point here is for everyone to understand the ramifications of what this is. The only thing I need to be confirmed next chapter is Andy is still visibly watching the things that happen, because he's like, all right, well, I've expanded my resources, I tap out, and Victor just poof.
I mean, it's true though. Like, at least we know, like, Andy make that last final contact with Unluck, just so that let's see how much of Unluck I have, put it on God. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll have some help kill the clock, but it didn't kill more than a minute. All that Unluck really did was to help trap God for however much time that they could, and that's basically it, wasn't it?
And that's the thing too, is that it's like we don't know if the Unluck was what allowed it to guaranteed hit him, because it was hitting Andy, or if like Andy swapping is going to keep the Unluck focused somewhere else for a bit until he swaps back in for a little while or something like that. I will say it was nice. It was kind of nice, and I think it's kind of nice that Undercrease and like the Under just straight up is in there automatically, like already like teaming up with them, not wasting any time.
I think they all knew.
At this point, the goals converge. Like, we always knew that there was a point where the goals could converge, and at this point, the goals converge. I think what I liked is still to be seen, but what I liked is we didn't get they were a couple, because that's what I thought was coming, was that Sun and Moon were a couple, and it was like some type of petty beef. I'm glad that's not the narrative that we got.
They're not a couple, but it is petty.
Petty. We're just gambling against each other.
It is petty.
And then we find out that Luna is the one that creates the artifacts, technically.
To be seen. And I think there was some hints that might be the case, but I'm glad that they didn't outright just say it. So.
It's still petty.
Yeah.
Absolutely
very petty.
Absolutely petty. I think I would like to see Juice do something more than bark orders in this fight. And
we're gonna see her die.
I was just about to say, I'm actually interested in seeing how the deaths, are we gonna get the deaths on screen? Like, what do you do here? Because if we're still here, like in this time and counting down, like I feel like seeing certain things for Fuku is very important. I think she has to carry certain burdens with her, and I'm just wondering like what that is. And then is she gonna be in a state of shock and disarray when she's finally reincarnated, holding all of these like years of memories, and like, you know what I mean? Like, what really ends up happening, I guess, is my question in all of this.
I still think Chikara might have a play. Literally, he'll just die of blood loss, but he's still just staring at God just until that last second of him being able to move
Honestly,
again thing.
with how fast it seems like he got injured and it did its damage, he might not even be able to die of blood loss because it looks like that stuff would have been cauterized right away.
Yeah, I don't know. I also, he's grown and he's leveled up and trained and stuff, but there's a certain level of focus that he needs for his ability, more so than a lot of other negators. If he's in excruciating pain, I just don't foresee him.
Mm-hmm.
He's still a kid, you know what I mean? He's
It's
literally
more like
the
if I'm
most
gonna die,
inexperienced.
I might as well like, run the clock, do what we're supposed to do. I know I'm gonna be father, but
It was funny to be like, no, you didn't just get one shot. You did your job. You fulfilled. You did good. You did real good.
I mean, you need people like that too. Like at least help, like support. It's a team effort. It's not just the one person thing.
Yeah.
Also,
how much chapters y'all think then? We got roughly 8.5 minutes. How much more chapters y'all think? If you could put a guess on it.
Somebody, Alvis, I think it was Alvis, he said this could be done in like 4 or 5 chapters, and I actually kind of agree with that.
I can see that too. Like we don't need. This is the final fight. We don't really need the official fight where God dies kind of thing, which might be like a whole throw off because you don't get that final fight just like with Ayashiman, where we never had the main character fight the final guy. We just have that confrontation front. But at least in this situation, this is the last fight. This is the fight that we do lose. It's supposed to be that the next rotation of things changing is what's gonna give us the fight to the end. But do we need it?
Well, we know that there's supposed to be a final loop, and the only way we don't get there is if Fuko gets up. So I will say the fact that we're getting the counter, the only way, and I think we almost have to do the loop. So these people, everybody has to lose, but I think this is specifically to close out Jui's and Victor's arc. And then we'll have the reforming of the Union in the next cycle. And we know that Andy and Fuko will be starting that together and being able to recruit people. They're going to be starting in like the 1800s. So there's a chance they'll actually be able to find people that they need right away. And just the two of them, honestly, like with the levels that, the way I look at it is, unlike previous times, Andy is going to be sitting here training. That's kind of how I look at it. Because before he was probably like dying, losing memory, dying, losing memory, dying, losing memory, or like dying, because I think he was only able to really process like 100 years worth of memory at a time or something like that. And anytime the card was out of his head, Victor was active. This is like the first time that the card is in his head and Victor is like swapping. So they've gotten a lot more comfortable swapping between the two. So if we spend, 4 billion years with Andy training, he's gonna be at Victor's level anyway, probably above it. And that'll allow him to actually do something and like combat and be ready for the final time. And so I think we're gonna loop and we're gonna see Andy and Fuko kind of build that team up like they had in that flashback arc, grab some of those Western people. You remember they had like similar designs to some of the people in the Union anyway. And those people will be a union and will travel through, and like maybe Luna's gonna help influence them or something like that, or they'll have better access to artifacts. But I think we don't need to spend more than like 4 or 5 more chapters, maybe like 6 to 7, depending on how the Undead Unluck volumes are panning out over in Japan. Right. And because which I'm gonna look up now just to.
I will say this, right? Again, Undead Unluck has the ability to be very unconventional with things, and I could see Fuko getting off that chair. I absolutely can see it. I think we should go through the loop, but I also can see Fuku just being like, no, there has to be some other way, possibly even thinking of the other way and getting up off the chair, possibly. But I think that
really depends. That's not what happens when
it
depends on what happens when a god wins the game, though.
Yeah, we don't know the stakes.
Because if you won the game, but what happens to Earth? You're technically too close to the sun. Technically, a lot of people died. Mm-hmm. People that sacrificed themselves in order to try to go into the next loop died for no reason at this very point, as well as resources and everybody's kind of like gone and dead. Does that mean their death was all in vain? We don't get a whole repeat. They don't get a second chance. Nobody's saving their own partners and lovers and like that. Like that's kind of sad though. That might bring in some anger in the more.
And I'm looking at it now, and I think 4 or 5 chapters is kind of the sweet spot, let me just double check this real quick, because 128. What chapter did we get now? 128. Yep, 128. So I was looking at the Tankobon chapter count, and it seems like it's typical to do about 9. Mm-hmm. And so assuming that volume 14, because like volume 14 is supposed to end on like number 124, with this chapter, it's 4 chapters into that 9 of the volume, so we could easily get 4.5 more chapters dedicated to the fight, and then the back half of this 9, like that 5th chapter, is going to be getting Fuko through the loop, finishing off a volume with her, like in the 1800s, and then we may get like 1 or 2 more volumes because we don't necessarily need to watch her struggle through regathering the team, because we know that that's the goal.
Yeah,
at least I don't need to see that, because I know that like Undead Unluck
that could be a fun little side, something later on after the series is done, just some like adventures with Fuko and Andy. Like they
did epic logs before, like they either went on to like Jump Plus or something like that too. Or
I think it'd be funny I think it'd be fun to just periodically, how we periodically still get like Promised Neverland, like random shots. Like I would like to have just like random bits of story of things that happened in between the gap.
Those works. The only thing that didn't work was the Death Note one, but yeah, I mean, who to say?
Yeah. Yeah. I like the story.
I like the new Death Note. Just
the one shot. You talking about the one shot? You talking about the supplemental? I like the one shot.
I like the one shot.
No, like the sequel.
That's what okay. You meant the end. Yeah.
That one. No.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So we're I think we're still. So do you guys? So I have 2 things. One, are we thinking more like a Naruto Shippuden XXX whatever Is it like a finishing? Is it going to be more like a fairy tale 1,000-year quest, 100-year quest,
I'm just looking at
blood war? Like what do you guys think? Is it just like some dynamic final arc, or is it like a literal next set of storytelling to be had?
I'm looking at 2 to 3 volumes of just building the union, them kind of completing quests, us getting it, like maybe Fuko having a higher understanding of her power, because like maybe her having like a pistol that allows her to transfer affection, and in the process that affection lands and gives you unluck if she hits you with it, so it doesn't need to have like lethal rounds in it. Just because I think that was like the revolver was kind of like her go-to for a lot of the early series, so I think like bringing that back in and like having her get like a fully active ability, so that she's not just waiting those like unluck bullets, being able to utilize it, because I don't want her just getting that with Andy, like I think she's earned.
Hear me out though. Given Fuko's disposition, how are they even actually getting points in this
They
world?
said every time you kill an Uma, you get a point.
I know. So given Fuko's disposition
and accomplishing the missions
timeline.
I look at it as like, you remember when they went to Shonen Jump?
Mm-hmm.
And she just pulled that pistol out on the clerk. I look at it as like Fuko is very resentful towards God, and she was able to like sympathize.
Now we know there's more than this. I mean, like all we know right now is just Sun and Luna, and I'm wondering like, does the gods in this entire universe just playing games with each other, making these bets, making these kind of rotations and bullshit? Because now I'm seeing Luna can actually be the final boss at this point. Like, you're part of this game. Yeah, you are on our side, but you participate in this.
And so time could be another god. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. But I think that
we got Sun, Moon, and Space. That's how that works, right? That's the
I think Fuko got that dog in her. And I think she's tried to be nice and empathize, because she has to, get along with people to make it work. But I don't know. I think she could, like, if she figures out how to like infuse it with bullets specifically, or like inanimate objects, it becomes a whole different game, because then it becomes, if I touch you with this, I can transfer the unlock from this object to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost
that's
like
kind of
Andy's
where I'm
kind
at.
of ability. It's like when he just cuts off the fingers, bullets, spine, whatever, the blood, like unlock. I could see a lot of it. I wish I got a Dragonaut for a present from Nico to Miko with love. Like, it was the Union's Dreadnought super weapon was literally what Nico made for his wife, and then we just let undecrease.
Yeah, it was funny to be like, oh man, we made it unbreakable with limitless energy, but it overheated.
I mean, that's always an issue.
We didn't think about that part.
Remind me, like undecrease is unlimited bullets, right? Or unlimited shots or something like that?
Yeah, basically he can make his ammo unlimited.
Yeah, there was no ceasing to the energy. It just couldn't handle that constant output of the energy, essentially. But I really don't have too much to say. Like, it's so weird sometimes. I feel like when chapters are really solid and good like this, I have even less to say. Like, I'm just pleased. I'm just genuinely pleased and really excited to see what's coming next for this series. I really would like to know kind of like, and obviously we're not going to know till we get there. I just want to know what the direction is.
I actually forgot to answer your question. Technically, it could just finish it without doing the whole Shippuden with 100 year quest. Because it did its job. It got the anime confirmation. After the anime's out, the book sales is going to increase even more.
So just wrap it up, like Aniki said, maybe 2 or 3 more volumes. Just don't do the 7 deadly sins, please. That's all I beg.
I mean,
nobody can do the 7 deadly sins.
We already know, like, if you prolong this even more, just to get more of the book sales and just have the anime to keep on going out even more for the sales. Remember, they did that to Demon Slayer too. Like, it technically was supposed to end it a lot sooner, but was pushed to bring out more chapters and more volume books. I mean, Shueisha should know their mistakes.
So a couple things. First off, they don't care because they make money.
Yeah, that's true.
Second off, that was a horrible thing that was done to Jericho. Third off, Dead Man Wonderland was a great read.
Yes, it is. Fantastic read.
I read the whole series back in the day. Don't worry, I already read that.
I read it when it first released. Waited for her to give birth and everything like that. I finished that series. Waited for that. Yeah. You were saying? Sorry, you were saying.
I just wanted to address those just because, like, I was like, okay, the chat's building up a little bit, but yeah, I think we're all good on Yu. Which means all we got left is One Piece, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say Victor takes the stage. 8 minutes 20 seconds only, so technically only like 2 minutes and 40 seconds just went by, and now and then you have to pull out the Victor card.
Well, I mean,
as well
like
as
I said,
using the
it's
sacred
that completion
weapons.
of Victor and Juice's arc together, because they need to finish out on a strong note, and I'll be interested to see if Unjustice will properly function on God. Because to a certain degree, this is his vision of justice, right? Like the way Luna explained their game, he feels at the very least justified in his behaviors. So from that perspective, it should work. But I can't promise that it will, and that's what makes it kind of interesting.
It's also adding the sword and the Aegis shield, and the third sacred treasure was the pod, right, to do the rotation loop. So that's all 3.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed the last 2 chapters. I'm ready for either they want to finish in 4 chapters or anything. But yeah, let's go into One Piece.
All right. Kenny, we got to talk about this cover story. Specifically because I'm seeing people be like, Katakuri took a major L. And we need to be honest about this. Caesar Clown.
You mean that they couldn't handle Katakuri, so they had no choice but to run away? Yeah, he took a major L. Okay.
But like, we need to talk about Caesar Clown and how if you don't know Caesar Clown is there, he can one-shot you. He can do a lot of damage because, and it's directly stated, he pumped in a hallucinogenic gas and then he helped them get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So
he has one of the few devil fruits that can internally affect you. The only thing that, and which has been re-emphasized, was that is as OP is basically Boa's devil power. They have abilities that can literally, they're internal, they're deeper than your physical or nature or anything worldly like that. It's not a elements or anything like that. It's literally like he's going inside of you and affecting your nervous system. You know what I mean?
He removed the oxygen from the area to beat Luffy before.
Mm-hmm.
Was just like, nobody can breathe, everybody loses. Bye.
The only person beating Caesar on a good day is Avatar, and y'all better go call that boy up from a different series, because or
if you don't know Caesar's there, he is going to do something to you with gas. They didn't know he was there, and it's already been shown. You know, like when what's her name? What's the name of the really, 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 really annoying girl from the Charlotte family? The one who was like, I'll be Big Brother's favorite.
Oh, Brule.
Yeah.
No.
Not
Brule was the one with the mirrors.
Yeah, Brule is the one with the mirrors, isn't it?
It was the girl who shot Luffy with a blow dart.
Oh, I don't even.
Oh, that's way back. That's like, wasn't
Yeah,
that like Cracker?
She had like an egg body. No, Cracker was the sweet general,
the brother.
Man, I gotta look this up just because I can't remember her name. But basically,
Flampe.
Flampe. I think it was. I think it was Flampe.
The bubble gut girl.
Yeah, because I'm like double checking the wiki right now just because I'm not gonna try to figure out which chapter that happened in. Yep, Flampe. So if you remember back, Katakuri was able to use Future Sight, but he didn't see her shooting the dart at Luffy. And it's similar to that, where if he wasn't like, his haki wasn't focused on observing Caesar Clown, it was focused on observing the future of the Vinsmokes and stuff like that. And then once he's under the hallucinogenic glass, we already know you can't use observation haki if you're not of clear mind. Observation haki actually has like the higher restrictions on it than armament haki. Like, people can rage out and do whatever, and they'll get to use their armament, no problem. You can use your COC if you get too mad, but you can't use your observation if you lose control. And that's why we only saw Kaido, like when Kaido used Future Sight, it was specifically under a circumstance we had been hit, and he was like, hey, I'm gonna need you to stop that. What if I copy you? And then he did the Future Sight. Like, we saw him putting thought into his strategy, which showed you he was being level-headed, even if it came off as very comedic. So all of a sudden, he's got he's got a gas coming that makes him see stuff the wrong way, and boom, done.
So I would also like to say, in regards to this cover page, isn't it very, very interesting that we're wrapping up the things with Germa and Caesar, and we get the reveal that we ended up getting in this chapter?
No, and that Mad's reunion theory.
I was about to say, and I had a feeling that's where we was going with this, not necessarily for the full Mad's reunion, but I had a feeling that the direction of which island or where Luffy's crew was going to be placed next was heavily, because that happens a lot. If you guys have been reading One Piece, the cover stories seem like they're disconnected at times, but they're usually tools for guiding the story. And that's why I don't know why people don't read them or pay attention to them, but they're why you may not get the full story, there's always some significant tie back to what's going on. So do you think we're done with them, or you think they're fully out the window now? Because he likes to like just jump to like the next set of stories that he's putting on the cover pages. You think we're done with Germa right now and it's time to like start talking about something else? What do you think is actually going on there?
Like, my stance on it is we are building towards that. And I mean, do you want to just hop to the end of it? Because like normally we try to go through the One Piece chapters.
Nah, we gotta do it backwards for this one. We kind of do gotta do it backwards. It backwards.
Remember the technology that Germa developed, right? Cloning. So first off, there's something that I'm a little curious about, which I saw somebody post an image of Eustace Kid holding a little robot that looks kind of similar to the design that we see here.
Mm-hmm.
What's more, we also have like the punk on her clothing, but I don't think of this like, because we have this emphasis on Germa and we know that, you know, he was working with them. Realistically, Vegapunk has the peak technology that the Germa has too. And the peak of Germa technology is cloning. And so apparently in the Japanese, the Vegapunk we see speaks and uses like the pronouns of an old man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so you see that Punk 02, this could be a clone body that happens to be female.
Yep.
I also am not opposed to this being like a granddaughter of Vegapunk or the daughter of Vegapunk, just because with Vegapunk being as old as he is or as around and as prevalent as he is, the idea of him having, you know, access to or a descendant or whatever like that does not surprise me in the least.
Would it be a clone? Would it just be the body and just his mind and never memory going into this one?
Yeah, like if he's infused memories into this clone body, even if it's just a replica of himself that has its own memories and is also working with the government.
Technology with Germa and everything, probably it's like more enhanced and everything.
So now remember there was experiments being done on kids.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to remind y'all that, and we did get a confirmation that he is trying to basically androidify living things.
Yep.
And we know what the current updated status of the pacifistas are. So he literally could be going, could be going between bodies. And this is just one of his drone bodies that he uses. Or like you said, it could be a descendant. It could be a number of things. And it could be that this isn't even like both Vegapunks could exist. Like the Vegapunk that we have heard in reference and this Vegapunk could actually still be two separate related people.
And that's
so we literally know nothing. We know nothing right now. And this is the thing where I constantly, week after week, I have to tell you, One Piece fans, this is why I hate y'all. Can y'all please let us get more information before you go on a 20-mile deep in the ocean theory rant? Like, we don't know anything. All we know is they said this person is Vegapunk. They announced themselves as Vegapunk. Shoot, we had a whole character announce themselves as being Odin. Guys,
it'd be like in this point is what is Vegapunk?
Let the ship land, please. Please let the plane land safely before you start grabbing your suitcases from the overhead. Please, I beg of you.
And what I will say is that I've seen some people be like, oh, this is Vegapunk might be like Dr. Hedo from Dragon Ball Superhero. I'm a little less likely to support that theory only because Vegapunk was like, the shark was supposed to recon, report, and bombard. The only thing he had a problem, or she or they have a problem with, is the fact the shark tried to eat them. That's a whole other situation then. Like, oh, I can't stop sharks from trying to eat people. And my thing is that with Frankie having access to some of Vegapunk's blueprints and Frankie being a cyborg, there's a chance that this is going to be their way into, because what I'm hoping is, and kind of expecting, if I'm being honest, but I don't mind this trope, it's whatever, is that because, well, I don't expect Vegapunk to necessarily be a fully well-meaning scientist that happens to take out pirates and stuff like that. I do think that it's the knowledge that Vegapunk is after, the science that Vegapunk is after. So meeting somebody like Frankie, even if you could argue that, you know, Frankie, he's the Vegapunk tech is beyond Frankie. Frankie did train and do research on Vegapunk's island. So the fact that Frankie was able to modify himself might be something of interest to Vegapunk. And the fact that we got the Punk Hazard kids brought back into the story lets me know that we're going to be getting an interaction with Sword, which I'll also say that this kind of solidifies that Rear Admiral Diaz Drake was probably considered a vice admiral, and that's why he was entrusted with the Wano infiltration mission. So, I mean, small accolades for that. Woo! But Vegapunk, And I guess what I want to ask is, where do you see, because we already know, like, this is One Piece. At most, Vegapunk is going to take them to jail, and then Luffy and them are going to bust them out. So kind of like, where do you see this dynamic going? Do you think it's going to just be...
I don't think it's the Vegapunk that we've been taught about throughout the series thus far. That's my initial thought. My initial thought is it's not the Vegapunk that we are familiar with. And Oda has done some stories like this before, sub stories of people in the series. So I wouldn't be surprised. Also, given when Vegapunk existed, given that we know that this story and this franchise has a history of passing on generations for things, I wouldn't be surprised if Vegapunk is a line, a descendant of geniuses. You know what I mean? I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the ability to descend the genius is also rooted in some other layer of science and experimentation things that are passed down through the Vegapunk. What if it's also even a devil fruit?
To back you up, Vanderdecken. We already had that established. Like, he was Vanderdecken, what, the 7th, 8th?
So
Vegapunk is a mindset. Like,
right. And I mean, again, it could be that I am Vegapunk. I take on some apprentice. They show promise. I give them the genetics. I give them the enhancements, and then they inherit the legacy of Vegapunk, and all the knowledge and wisdom is specifically implanted into their brain. Again, this could be an ability. It could be an ability to Orochimaru your existence into another existence, and that's a whole devil fruit ability. And the devil fruit just never. That's the way that devil fruit changes cycles. Very different than any of the other devil fruits that we've ever seen. It could be any number of things. It could just be so simple as this is indeed Vegapunk, the Vegapunk we've all heard of, and we're just about to get Vegapunk's story. And the thing that we have thought about Vegapunk isn't exactly the way that we have thought about it. I'd be fine with it. I'd be fine. I just think we as a community need to stop jumping to conclusions.
I do agree with the notion that it'll be a little odd if there's not some trick to this, only because even the people on the island with Frankie directly stated that Vegapunk was a guy. So that needs a little explanation. That's why I'm like, daughter clone, robot that he's controlling, all cool. Because I also wouldn't be surprised if it turned out Vegapunk was like real old at this point, or decently old, and was basically I'm not gonna say brain in the jar status, but you get what I'm saying. Like, kind of just having a like chilling and controlling things remotely, and like working on new bodies is his way of sticking around. Because at that point, that would also mean that like the pacifista stuff. Because even if it's also worth noting that if this is the Vegapunk that made Kuma a pacifista and completed that work, this is the same Vegapunk that was willing to allow Kuma to protect the Straw Hat shit. So we gotta, and I think that's a smooth thing to kind of forget, but Vegapunk was willing to give Kuma that last mission. So at minimum, saving the Straw Hats, even though they're like, I'm not saving you, dirty pirates. Solid chance that we're gonna get a bit of, all right, I want to talk to you because of the fact that Kuma had me save you.
It also could just be a matter of the obsessive, naive scientist, the obsessive pursuit of science just for the sake of science, where there's think Senku. If you've read Dr. Stone, there's some moments. If you watch Dr. Stone, there's some moments, and they call it out very plainly. It was like, Senku, you seeming a little bit like the villain right now, because the science doesn't care about whether it's good or bad. The science is just the science. And if that's the type of character Vegapunk is, and essentially they've just been being hidden away from the world, then they could be influenced by Luffy in some manner or form. And if it's somebody whose goal is to just hear me out, and I know that people are running out saying the joining the crew, but if their goal is to be the best scientist that the world has ever seen and do whatever is the best that does align with the ethos of the Straw Hat crew, So I'm not saying that I want that to be a thing or I'm pushing that to be a thing, but also it's just like the convenience of the way things could play out is interesting. However, we know nothing. We didn't get anything but a name and a face reveal this chapter.
And it's
we
like,
don't
boy.
know anything. And my thing was, I was scared because I thought that they genius turn page writing. I thought that they were going to where Sabo was based off of the whole phenomenal effect that happened, because I was like, I okay, but then there was like Survivor, and then Bonnie came in, and I was like, oh, I forgot that you were even in the worst gen talking about you part of the worst gen with everybody. I forgot you existed.
Yeah.
So it was it's one of those things where be patient. And it's like I get getting excited. I get like, look, simp and woo over alleged cute. I hope it's a young woman for all of you simps out there. Y'all ain't even wait to confirm an age or nothing. Y'all nasties. Like I really do want to see more. Just let us. Y'all could have waited a chapter before y'all ran out the side with the level of theories. I turned off in there. I was doing something and I popped on Twitter, I think Thursday, and I saw hashtag Vegapunk and some other, I forgot which one. I think it was My Hero. I think it was like hashtag Deku and hashtag Vegapunk were trending, and I was like, yeah, I don't even want to know. I literally was like, I just that's a One Piece and a My Hero reference. It's time to come off of the internet for the night is what I got from that. But that's my point. That's my point, Alves, is that I've said this on here, that I'm an anti-fan. Not anti-fan of the series. I'm anti the One Piece fan. I'm anti the fandom of One Piece. Like it's annoying. I won't even say it's toxic. It's just annoying.
Well, it's because people, I think especially the ZKK era made this 10 times worse. Because every week you had people being like, Zoro's going back to the rooftop. He's going to be slaying Kaido. Or you had, ZKK is finally dead. You losers are losing. And it was, so it's like this constant tug of war that didn't have to go down the way it did for years. That's what's crazy. I thought about watching the ZKK documentary, but I'm gonna need a lot of time for that since it's a 2-hour video.
So we're good.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about watching. Maybe. That's a lot. I feel like it's gonna be a big investment. Man. So like, okay, so we jump to the end. What about just the interaction of everything? One of my things about, so I you know what I be like in theory was the most excited about from this chapter is that I was like, is this going to be a Frankie development arc? Because we know a character or two is always like get some set of like developments, and I've always said that the Straw Hats need a bigger ship. And people are always like, they just got this ship. What do you mean they need a bigger ship and a bigger ship? And I was like, again, he's now an emperor. That is not an emperor ship. Y'all can say what you want. I love that ship. It is amazing. But that is not the ship of an emperor.
No,
okay?
The Thousand Sunny can use some upgrades at this point. I mean, honestly, the Thousand Sunny, as good as it seemed to be, we're not even, like, when's the last time we saw the guy on cannon?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't they Kuda burst away from the shark?
That was my first thought, and I was like, okay, maybe it wasn't fat like enough time. And I was like, no, we've seen them like coop mid-air before. Like, what does that mean? And I agree, Blackheart. I agree with like Brook development. I think we've talked about this like way before Wano ended, that it's probably Brook was going to be a very integral part of like the next part of the story. I'm still wondering I'm wondering if they still continue with Zoro in the next set of arc, but I know that he's going to be very integral, but I don't know if his story gets developed in this part of whatever this storytelling is happening. But Yeah, I'm very much so feel like the ship. I feel like Brooke. I feel like Frankie. I feel like they deserve some very specific attention and development with their stories. Me and Blackheart have conversations all the time where we talk about how certain people's stories are a lot more not filled out than others. We talked about how Nami's kind of had her story told, but then it's like you know nothing about her backstory. You really think about like you know certain things, but realistically, the origin of it all, you know nothing about. The same thing can be said for
So I want to back you up on the Nami thing real quick.
Brooke. Yeah.
Just because I can't remember if Brooke has it or not, but there's a certain distinction that's been made between characters. And it's sometimes when Oda talks about them, specifically within the Straw Hats, I believe Usopp, Nami, Luffy, and Zoro still. So like Sanji, it says birthplace, the North Blue.
The North Blue. Mm-hmm. I'm following you. Mm-hmm.
But for those four characters, it just says hometown, not birthplace.
Yep. That's what me and Blackheart were talking about. That literal distinction that you just made. And it's those subtle things about the way that Oda writes that people overlook. And people are going to go back and pretend like they knew this all along. The people that have been reading for like 3 years are going to be like, yeah, I knew this all along. It's like, no, you haven't. Some of these things you're really only going to remember, some of these more finite things, if you've been reading for like 10 years. Because it's certain things that stick with you a little better when you read it week to week. Mm-hmm. And I'm not that's not discounting, you know, some people are really, really smart people. I'm not discounting you, but like the vast majority of you that's gonna pretend like, oh yeah, it was Agatha all along. I knew from the beginning. You didn't know it was Agatha all along. Stop it.
I don't know who Agatha is, so that one.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just know that they didn't know. It was a WandaVision reference. Just know that they didn't know. But yeah, so tailoring back again, kind of like going back, what did you think about just the decisions? So like think about now like the decisions Jinbei make as far as like, hey Frankie, you like the hierarchy of who started calling the shots, I think is very telling about a couple of things that happen there. And then I think I also want to go back to that conversation in the cave. So first, your thoughts on like just like the whole interaction of the ship flipping and everything that happens from that point on. Like, what do you think about that? Because I feel like there's so much to be said about like, hey, having people rotate roles and this thing that Oda likes to do where he likes to separate the crew for new adventures so they can meet back up. It gives him the ability to tell from a varying different standpoints of storytelling. And we've already seen like it's like, okay, new island, boom, crew's already split. It's like, yo, we ain't even on the island yet. You already split the whole crew up. You know what I mean? So like, what do you think about that? You think there's certain significance? Do you think it's important that Jinbei was that person that was like, look, you do this, you guys go there. He's the one that saw that Luffy and Chopper fell in the water. Like what did you get from all
what
that?
We're doing is kind of deviating a little, and also because it was Luffy, Chopper, and Bonnie. And Oda has written Sanji's gag so much that he only wants to save women, that even though we've seen him try to save Luffy, that it almost feels like, well, this is an aquatic mission. So instead of having Sanji, who is technically their sky guy, go in the water, even though he can blue walk, let's have the fishman do it. Let's tap into that. But also it allows Luffy and Jinbei to get like an adventure together. It allows like Jinbei being the newest addition to the crew, build up that. And then like also kind of function as a middleman between him and Bonnie, because, you know, he's a bit more level-headed, whereas Sanji would immediately like kind of start simping. Zoro would probably just kind of reject her. Or at the very least, he also might be trying to delay like Bonnie and Zoro having a real conversation because of the fact that, you know, she saved Zoro, or say, you know, like Admiral still ended up being called to the island. So, but she delayed the Admiral being called to the island by helping Zoro out there. And so it kind of lets that trust build up, but then also like having Chopper get a chance to bond with Bonnie a little, I think is going to come into play too, because if Chopper is vouching for her, I think we're going to have Nami and Robin take his side and back him up.
I also think that Sanji is intentionally in front of Vegapunk. I also think that that's like part of what that is as well. So I it's gonna be interesting. And Sanji might be the one to confirm what Vegapunk is, because you know he got the 17th sense of if someone is a woman or not. That's his special ability right there. So I think yeah, I think it was very intentional. I think it was smart. Like you said, I also got the same perspective of like, I was like, okay, this is Chopper time, this is Jinbei time, this is some time for some dynamics that we haven't seen, or we haven't seen in a very long time, if we want to be honest, for like seriousness to happen between Luffy and Chopper, and not just like there for like comedic relief. But we know that Chopper pairs well with all of the different members of the crew. He's really like the glue of, not like he's holding them together single-handedly, but he meshes well with every single individual member. You can send Chopper on an adventure with every single individual member and get a very fun, unique interaction that is just Chopper's like friendliness and fluffiness, and he still has his importance and relevance to the story.
And I think since we're already on Egghead Island, we get the chance of him kind of running into the kids with Vegapunk, and kind of giving us a chance for him to work on that collab. So it's a little less, because, you know, a lot of people have kind of mentioned he didn't help the people with Smile Fruits.
Boo.
And it's like, well, it could be fine. Boo. But we don't know for sure. So it's kind of like, we probably could have done a bit more with that to like hard. And people are like, you know, Chopper wants to save and like be able to cure any illness. So why wasn't he, you know, like out there doing what it took to fix that?
What if he doesn't see it as an ailment? What if it's just like, you know, I think that's the type of thing that people kind of overlook. And I think we do get Helmeppo and the swords coming over. Again, going back to my bro Blackheart's point, like Zoro has some developing still needing to happen. Like we know a very big plot line is the swords, not the swords in reference that they use, not the people, the swords, but the swords of the series is a very big plot point that has, I won't say the least amount of development, but of the big critical points that should be flushed out towards the end, it's a big point to me, because there's still the top 3 swords. There's still all of these other things with sword lore, like actual physical sword lore that needs to be expressed. And I think bringing the sword group entity now into that faction, having everyone on Vegapunk, and even for a possible development for Chopper as far as his fruit, because I believe, I think, I don't know if Blackheart's still here. We was talking about that, about Chopper getting a form that's like a conglomeration or more centralized power of the big rumble form, almost like a slightly smaller, less giant, but like able to possibly tap into like other different facets of the different forms, was something that me, him, and another friend were talking about. And that'd be interesting because now he's in front of Vegapunk, a scientist, someone else who would be able to help push a medical development of that inclination. You know what I mean? So my last thing with that is that instead of old Madhouse, what if this is new gen? Because we have Chopper, we have what may be younger or newer or a completely different Vegapunk. We have, and there might be another factor in there. Maybe Frankie's also part of whatever this is. It could be a new gen of whatever, you know, like I said, I think those are more fun things to play around and theorize with than some of the other things that have been said. And I think you don't get to like think about that until you start doing what we just did and go back and say, okay, well, what's the significance of Chopper? Like, what's the significance of this group being here? What's the significance of the ship even being flipped? Like, did the ship even need to flip? Come on now. Hear about Sanji. Frankie is capable enough. He may not be the helmsman that our boy, Lord, why am I forgetting names? Jinbei is, but he's still competent and it's still his ship. He built that ship. He knows the capabilities of that ship. So yeah, Jinbei might be able to bring out things that Frankie could never do, but Frankie should still be able to competently handle maneuvering that ship in that situation. So there's some significance to that ship being flipped. Yes, the machine, the giant robot, not Frankie, came out of the water, but like I just think there's a lot more things to be kind of
and
considered from just the little bit of interaction that we got in this chapter.
And it does kind of suggest that, like, we see that the shark is way bigger. You know, like when the mouth is bigger than the ship, then the head is like 3-4 times bigger than the ship. And the robot is also bigger than the ship. Oda is a little weird and not always consistent with his sizing, but the implication is kind of that this shark is massive as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could argue that just off of a physics perspective, it's fine that it flipped because such a big thing displacing so much water, trying to eat them, all that other stuff. But having the robot come in there and do it, it's kind of like, well, why didn't Sanji? Because like I also want to know why, like, because you could have had Sanji or Zoro also knock this thing out.
Yeah, that so my thought is maybe the weather for Nams and just the timing of everything was off, and everything just happened so quickly, including like the turnaround of like Vegapunk showing up in a robot. It all just happened so quickly. Like for us, it seems kind of slow, but it could be a matter of like split seconds between, or even just like literally a second between each of those things happening. So I think that could be what it is. But again, I think my thing is, I really think that this is just a bigger knock to, they need a better ship, a ship that can handle these adverse weathers, a ship that can more largely handle all kinds of more robust things. I think is important. And I think we have seen that at critical junctions, things outside of the crew develop. And I think it would be a good time to develop the ship. And it might just be Sunny is a ship inside of another ship. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we're going to destroy this ship. We already went through that. So we don't have to kill a ship. I don't need to cry over another ship.
We can infuse Sunny or upgrade it. We can
upgrade Sunny. We can develop Sunny. We can whatever, something else can happen here is what I'm saying for Sunny. And I think that is super important, because I think leading up to a fight with Blackbeard, leading up to the Armada showing up, and whenever all of these other points start to converge, I think a bigger ship that's just me. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking about piracy. Like I'm literally like taking myself out of even the One Piece book, and I'm like, yeah, you want the captain that's got the boat. Like the boat is significant to showing a certain level of respect. And you've seen that all the Yonkos, all our predecessors.
The Mama Shant door.
Huge, massive. Kid and Law's ships are all, Luffy, Kid, and Law's ships are tiny. They're really like, and they're not tiny. So like they're big ships. Let's not get this wrong. They're big ships. But in the grand scheme of things, they're small ships.
They could all use bigger ships, upgrades. Yeah, like the Mama Shant door is basically like a giant skyscraper.
Exactly.
Plus the range is like massive. The thing is like a small hotel.
And we've also seen Sunny. We've seen Sunny next to like the marine ships, and it's not even massive in regards to the marine ships. But we've seen like Whitebeard ships that his ship is running over marine ships. You know what I'm saying? So I just think people are sleeping on that being a key point to potentially, maybe not necessarily exactly right now, but I think there's some things that we can say is a kind of alluding to that being a significant point. Even like I said, even just them getting beat up by the water before any of that ever happened, like the chapter before, you know what I mean? Like just how they were having to handle going through that weather. And I think Nami would probably be a big proponent of saying like, it would be cool if we could handle these things and these things. And Nami and Frankie can have some report about thinking about ways to improve the ship. And they might have their own little something, Robin, Nami and Frankie might have their own something with Sanji on the side that's going to tailor into that. You know what I mean? But I think Vegapunk's going to play a big role. And I think with Caesar being with Germa, it is interesting to think about what are the ramifications of meeting Vegapunk at this point in juncture. And then still not forgetting 2 chapters ago, we basically just, were you listening to this communication? Forget everything that happened. Forget this island. Matter of fact, it didn't exist. Like, excuse me? You what? You bruh, what type of entity is calling on your marine top line and saying, yeah, y'all listening? You ain't heard nothing. Forget about it. The island? What island? This island never existed. Huh?
Like, wait, what? I'm trying to see if I can find like ship measurements for some of these other ships in the series that seem to dwarf the Thousand Sunny right now. Like I'm legitimately like on the wiki looking up ships at the ships and boats section.
Yeah. Oh, Alvis, I don't think so. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a core part of the storytelling. I think it has the propensity to be addressed in this arc. It literally can be something that's happens, or it could be inherited. It could be all kinds of different things. I don't think it's like a big part, but I think Frankie gets a lot of development, and that could turn into something that leads to the bigger ship later on. So I'm not saying like I agree. There's a lot of things that we need to resolve, but like there's no reason for that. Look how many different plots got progressed and even completed inside of Wano in itself. I think it's possible that the ship can be addressed in the midst of dealing with everything else that's happening in this next arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, question, Sam? You look like you're hankering to ask something.
No, I was fine. No, I didn't have a question. I was looking at some stuff. But yeah. I definitely would.
Queen Mama Chanter. There we go. Let's see if they have no dimensions for that either. Oh my God. Well, the important thing is that the Thousand Sunny is supposed to be about 183 feet tall and 127 feet long. 128 feet really. So 5,600 centimeters, so 560 meters, and 3,000, which are actually 56 meters, I want to say, and 39 meters up. So not a lot, not substantially huge ships. Whereas the marine ships look to be, multiple football fields long and a couple tall, especially the ones with the sea stone bottoms. So I agree that it might be time to get some modifications to the Sunny, at least get it a bit longer, bigger. I mean, I know he doesn't have the atom wood, but maybe we can do something here with some tech. I don't know. I think the super, and it could be that Oda is going for this smaller ship because just like how Luffy is like 5'9", and we have all these pirates out in the world that he's stuck fighting that are 30 feet tall. Luffy's not even a full 2 meters, but he's constantly fighting people who are 10 meters tall, 20 meters tall. I don't know. So it could just be like that same energy being applied to the ships, where it's like, yeah, they got a small ship, but they can do big things with it. But I don't know.
Bro, I was looking at just like the marine ships, and I was just reminded of one of the other ships, the Salamander. I'm looking at, it's like, yeah, some of these marine ships are like ridiculous, and they have kind of like you said, it depends on that type of ship. It depends on who's in charge of it. So anyways, like I said, my fun little anecdote, because I like to look at other little things besides some of the other things that people run away with in this series. And if y'all been with me as I've been on this journey talking about One Piece here on Shonen Ronin, I often tend to sniff out things and be right about things that people don't typically catch. So would not be surprised.
Observation haki.
Yeah, my observation haki, fuego. Fuego. But at the end of the day, like I said, I trust Oda to tell a good story. I do. And even to kind of kick back to some of the other series we talked about, I still trust in Gege to write me a good story. I still trust in all of the series we talked about. I still expect a good story. Yeah. Whether I have criticism, whether I disagree with a direction, I'm not writing the story. I don't have the vision. So what might look one way to me right now, I'm gonna backtrack on it later on. I will, and I'm not afraid. Like y'all saw when I had my Bakugo predictions, and I told y'all he's not dead, and I was like, if it says that he's dead, I'm a bite, and I did. And then the next chapter, I was like, look, I warned y'all. I told y'all I'm gonna come back for y'all with the smoke if he really ain't, and again, it's okay. We've talked about this before. It's okay to love a series and still have criticism for it. I think you're being very disingenuous with your appreciation, admiration for a series if you only have good things to say about the series. There's no such thing as a perfect work. I don't care what you say. Even the best work, even the most historically, there's things you can say about Shakespeare's writing. You see all the stuff going on with J.K. Rowling right now. Once upon a time, they were a legendary being. Y'all couldn't say nothing to smear their name. And now we're in a whole nother realm of life. You know what I mean? So it's okay to have criticism. That's all I want to say. I don't really have anything else to say about this One Piece chapter. It was great for me. I love it. It was not my chapter of the week, but it was biasly my chapter of the week because I really just enjoy thinking about like what this chapter is. But yeah, I don't got anything else for One Piece. You got anything else for One Piece, Aniki?
No, I'm good. I think we covered everything we needed to. I'm looking through the chapter. Alves pointed out the fan service. I'm not going to address that.
I don't.
We don't need to.
That's crazy. I just responded to someone's who had a TikTok. Someone had a TikTok and I tweeted it and it was like, how do you feel about fans? I genuinely don't care. It doesn't do anything to me. I'm happy that people enjoy seeing whatever, but I'll understand. I can very, very deeply get ingrained in a story. I can very, very deeply get ingrained into the character development, and I didn't notice it. I'm not even gonna go back and look for it. I did not notice fan service. I'm just gonna take your word that there was fan service in the chapter.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing I could say is that I'm interested to see if we'll get confirmation that DS Drake is still alive or not, since that could be
come up again.
A small redeeming W for Green Bull, since he went to Wano and was told not to do anything stupid. He might, grab DS Drake and pull him out, and that'll be his kind of, see, I didn't do anything stupid. I helped X Drake. And it's clear now that people are like, sword, like we're getting all these characters who are in Sword. Mm-hmm. So it would almost be a waste for Drake to actually be dead, because it looked like he was just exhausted as hell from all the fighting. Because he wasn't even anywhere near where Hawkins was originally. So it kind of just looks like he survived and is going to end up back with the Marines, and they'll just have to clear that up at some point. And it'll be like, well, he was in there to infiltrate Kaido's operation. And so maybe we'll end up getting a new story eventually that makes DS Drake seem bigger, like a just bigger deal than he is. Yeah. Just like how Smoker got with the Alabasta thing. Because that'll be there. Because like they're going to have to explain Kaido's absence and Big Mom's absence. So they're probably going to say, and we don't know the full details about like what they put in the reports or anything like that. So yeah, I'm waiting to see a bit more of the Navy plot. And this is basically, as far as I'm concerned, Egghead Island is Punk Hazard 2. We grab Bonnie. We know that Sword is in the area. It's time to make a plan to take down another Yonko. And by take down another Yonko, I mean get Kobe back.
Yeah. It sets up like literally this chapter set up a very, and I mean, again, this is what Oda does. It set up a very clear path. And I told y'all, by the time we get through whatever this transition is, we're going to have a very, very clear understanding of what Oda's next couple steps towards the end is. And I see it. I see what, like, I don't know what the last thing is, but I at least see the next two steps very clearly for me anyways. Yeah. So, chapter of the week, we can agree is My Hero Academia. No questions asked.
Yeah. Like Undead Unluck is good. It just, because this is like a penultimate battle and we can all tell it's hitting differently than like what we're getting here, where it's like, even if this fight is in phases, this is it. This is it. And we've been waiting for this. It's been a lot of build up, and we're kind of getting to see this like real big like matchup finally come to fruition. And obviously, we had our questions about JJK and kind of had a discussion about that, so that we already knew that one wasn't going to get it. So it was just really between My Hero and One Piece. And One Piece is at like the very start of an arc. So we got something good, but it's not like
enough to
Yeah, it's not like that.
it's
Yeah,
not-
we're
it's-
getting a big payoff. It's like, oh, we're starting something.
we do know the meat's there, but it's not the fat, not the bone, or anything like that. So
Yeah. Got a nice lean piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with Jared. My Hero is the #1 spot for this, for the cover and everything too. So, I think we are good, guys. Aniki, can you give us your plugs?
You already know it's Aniki Smash FSP wherever you need to find me, whether that's YouTube or Twitter, baby. Haha, see, there we go. Got a whole one this time. But yeah, YouTube, Twitter. If you want to find the Discord, it's been posted multiple times all over.
It's also
You're
down
welcome
below
to
in the
come in.
description. Now probably
So-
in the comments.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, great, good week in Shonen Jump, even with the gripes that I did have with some stuff. Overall, still happy with the direction of what I'm reading lately. But yeah, just gonna pass that on to Kenny.
Yeah. So you can follow me, Kendellgrantva, on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. You also can find all the links and ways to get to me down below. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. And yeah.
Thank you guys for watching Shonen Ronin. Of course, like Kenny said, remember to like the video. If you did, subscribe to the channel. We still are not stagnant, but we will try to get to 3K by the end of the year, hopefully. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed our weekly Shonen Jump and weekly Shonen Ronin stuff. Peace.